And we're live back here on the second episode of the LA Shoulder Podcast. With me, I have my second guest, Mark Davidson, very, very good friend of mine who's also been my industry rep. So he's a surgical device rep for Saxum Surgical. He has extensive experience and knowledge with Arthrex products, and he's just a really cool guy. So how you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming. I'm glad you're serious.
Yeah, we got to tell all the secrets, all the ins and outs.
What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I think we'll follow your lead here.
Cass told me I can't say that. She's like, don't ask your guests if they have anything they want to talk about. She's like, that's like the worst thing you can say.
Yeah, it's probably something that you should come prepared with.
That is absolutely the worst thing to start with. Hey, man, so what do you want to do? What do you want to say? Anything fun?
Yeah, I mean...
But unless you have something really cool, I'm down. Let's do it. Let's check it out. Let's see what you have to say. If it's nothing, I have a whole list.
Why don't we check out your list? And if your list is appearing to be a little bit boring, we can change some things up. But let's start there.
How do you feel about the Middle East?
Yeah, let's go with your list.
It's on the list, man. I want to know. How do you feel? Is it still going on? Because I can't keep watching the news every day and experience trauma. I feel like I've had enough trauma lately. Yeah. So I'm going to try to avoid trauma. But unfortunately, there's some places where trauma exists, and that's a big field of what I do. Coming through LA County USC, we're doing the trauma service, orthopedic trauma, and some of these areas just have consistent trauma. Some of what we do causes trauma in the shoulder, right, as surgeons. So pretty much everything that you do may cause some trauma. But what about minimally invasive trauma?
Is all trauma bad, though?
You can be if it's traumatic. Trauma causes injury, and then your body has a response to that, right? So you have physical response, you have healing response. Once you have the kind of the accepting phase of knowing that this is a traumatic injury, you have inflammation, and your body recognizes that with what? Usually, if it hurts, pain. Yeah. So you bump your knee, and it's just like, oh my God, it hurts so bad. It's going to hurt forever. And you know exactly where it is. But those are neural pathways, right? Neural pathways that tell you, they go to your brain and they say, hey brain, this is a problem potentially. And how does your body know how to recognize it's in your knee? Because you hit it, but you might not be looking at it, but you still know it's your knee. Yeah. That makes sense because it hurts in your knee, right?
Yeah, so something with your pain receptors and nerves, and then your body's mapped out in a certain way that your brain knows from past experience.
Mapped out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert in this like you are.
How is it mapped? But you know these things, and you know what makes sense. So nerves are ways that there's communication basically through your body. It's one way. So nerves can travel with signals, but you said mapping. So what kind of mapping would that be?
That's a good question.
That? Where's that mapping? You think it's in your brain?
Yeah, I think it's in your brain. I think your brain, from experience, understands and knows when you have injuries that it knows where those came from, and stores that as a memory. And then when you feel the same type of pain, that it knows that it was the same place as it was before. Kind of like when you touch a stove when you're younger and it's hot, and then you learn that things that are hot hurt. So, I mean, I think your brain stores that type of information.
What if you've never hit your knee really hard before? It's never happened.
Like the very first time you hit your knee?
Yeah. Is that the first time? Do you think you know exactly where that is, that you hurt your knee? If you feel it the first time?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question. How do you know that?
Do you think it's like if a tree falls, you hear it? It's like the first time you hit your knee. Do you think it's your knee? Do you understand it as hitting your knee?
Well, are you saying that maybe this is just a hidden trauma that's getting brought back up? And
what do you think?
I don't know.
It
all has to start somewhere, right?
How do you test babies' perception of hitting their knee?
Yeah,
Probably happens when you start walking, right? When you have some type of trauma to the ground. And then you have a sensation of hurt, like of pain because of trauma. directly over that area. Whether or not it causes significant damage, maybe not, but your body's telling you, hey, it's sensitive nerves over those areas with pressure, and basically with free nerve endings, sometimes that can cause pain if they're damaged, or lacerations or cuts when we put Band-Aids on our boo-boos.
These are all just stored memories, though, right?
You think so? So you think it's all through memory?
I think it's through memory. Not the first time. I mean, pain obviously doesn't come from memory, but
it comes from trauma, right? Usually.
I mean, it come from a lot of different things. And your heart knows pain, probably not from an outside trauma, but like a laceration or hitting your knee on something. I mean, that's an outside force. There's physical trauma, emotional trauma. There's different types of trauma.
Something external.
External, I think. I don't know what tells you exactly where the pain came from, other than, if you hit your knee on something, you hit your knee because you felt it. And if there's pain, then now that causes pain, or that, that's where that came from.
So awareness through experience, and your body has experienced it before. So you think that's how it happens?
I mean, I think that plays a part of it. I don't know. I have no idea how the beginning starts, and how you're initially told, oh, this is where the pain's coming from. I think it's, if I hit my my arm against a wall, I know it's my arm.
Right. You know that now.
I know that now.
Let's agree that there's a process that happens.
Well, I'm looking at it.
Where we all have certain, well, what if you're not looking at it and you trip in the dark and you hit your knee? Well, you still know it's your knee.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do, right?
Yeah.
I'm just asking a question, trying to derive where we're, how these injuries kind of get to the point in our brain where we're aware of them. Because injuries, whether or not it's something, my football coach used to say, I'm sure a lot of football coaches used to say this, does it hurt or are you injured? Because if it just hurts, you can still play, right? If you bump something, but if you're injured, you probably can't walk. You probably can't make a tackle if your shoulder's dislocated. Those are clearly injuries. So there's something in between, some kind of aspect where you have input from the environment, where you may have trauma with an injury, and that we agreed that you have some kind of mapping where your body's aware of where that is. Whether or not that happens when you're a little baby or maybe when you're older, I think it's pretty clear when kids say my knee hurts, they know what that means. So maybe sometime before that is established. But my point is, there is mapping for that. And to understand these types of injuries that require further something like surgical treatment or even non-surgical treatment, but just even assessment, like something that doesn't get better on its own, that you pretty much need to see an orthopedic surgeon for. That type of trauma, I think, is something that is going to happen whether or not there's doctors, whether or not there's computers that try to prevent us from falling. I think that's an important thing that is part of development that teaches us injury avoidance, right? Our pain mapping system that's pretty sensitive over our knees, our hands are very sensitive to a certain extent. There's a lot more receptors in certain areas that are going to be basically more sensitive to problems, probably because they're important. And other areas where they may be less prone to injury from external things, maybe some areas of like the thickness of your back, typically there's not as much need for very small receptors to feel a lot of differences between very small things. But obviously if you got stabbed, you could feel that. So we have all these things, I think, that we've developed and adapted over time, and a lot of other animals have those similar neural systems, neural mapping. So we know that the proprioceptive system, basically that's knowing where your body parts are in space, is a major part to avoiding injury. And with injury, a lot of sports push what normal people do, day-to-day activity, walking back and forth, picking small things up, drinking, eating. Those are called activities of daily living. That's a lot different than high demand sport, even low demand sport at a low level, community level, versus a academic, like collegiate level, and then professional level. Yet we treat all these injuries with pretty similar management. We have non-surgical intervention with therapy and injections. One thing that I think your company does a lot of is biologics, and the concept of looking at into biologics as ways that we can kind of hack our biology to a certain extent to improve it in certain ways and regenerate certain parts of it. And I think that's where the company Arthrex has a big interest as far as I know, but also with what they're doing, it's more minimally invasive. So less trauma, right? We should be doing less trauma as surgeons, ideally. We should be using things that can help our patients with less trauma from us because they've already typically had some type of injury through their sports, through trauma that way. And so it's our job to be a little bit more minimally invasive about that. And that's where your job, giving us some new techniques, teaching us about what's new and less invasive, I think is really helpful. And that you were one of the first guys when I started my job that I met at a course, and you were like there waiting for me, like, "Hey man, what's up?
Yeah,
how's it going?"
Yeah, that was.
I'm Mark.
Man, when was that? Was that?
It's a long time ago.
6 years ago?
Yeah, about
something like that. Yeah, we had that was a great first meeting. Yeah, all good points. I think it's what you're talking about right now is kind of the past, the present, and the future of medicine, and you're in a profession where I think the future of surgery is less invasive. I think everyone wants that. I think it's you can use it as marketing, you can use it as outcomes, you can use it as cosmetic. There's a lot of benefits to doing less invasive surgery. And I mean, doing a standard rotator cuff, that used to all be done with big open incisions, and now you're doing those through little poke holes, and that's innovation right there. And where else can we do that in the body, and what else can we use that's minimally invasive to help prevent having to have surgery? That's an open fillet of the body that has traumatic results, right? And scars, and
it's just more scarring a lot of the time.
And
a lot of the time,
mentally is who wants big scars on their body? That's
fibrosis.
Yeah,
causes problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's the world of biologics and the future of medicine, and look at all the med spas that are doing, what is it, like preventative aging type stuff. I mean, it's all similar concepts.
What is preventative aging? Do you believe in that? Do you believe we should prevent aging?
Preventative aging.
So we should all look young, right?
Yeah,
look as young as possible.
Botox.
I think so.
And
why not?
And vampire facials. And I don't know. What do you get done?
If you're younger physiologically, why not?
Are you doing
look better, feel better, be better?
Are you doing lip fillers and things like that?
Me?
Yeah.
Myself? Or doing? I'm not doing any injections right now. I got to heal first.
Yeah, all that's kind of similar, though. We're talking about less invasive ways to make the body either feel better, look better, heal better. It's kind of all. There's correlation between all of it.
There is, though, right?
I think there is.
So it's overall progress.
I mean,
in the field,
it's just development, and it's innovation, and it's listening to what the patient wants, and doing everything that we can to give patients better outcomes based off of both the result of whatever we're fixing, and then also just whatever that makes them feel better about how they look, or whether it's a cosmetic or even doing like a Popeye defect, biceps tenodesis type biceps. Surgery, right? Is it cosmetic? Is it is that going to make someone stronger?
If somebody hurts and they're having problems with it, it may be cosmetic plus. I think it depends on the level of activity for a lot of the things that we do, because there is generally acceptable agreements that people want to do well. Your surgeon has an interest in that, and the patient should have an interest in that for going through the procedures. Ken Yamaguchi over at WashU has a kind of a famous saying for saying sophisticated surgery for sophisticated patients, which to some extent I think is true. There should be some matching there. It may not be one-to-one, but that can go both ways poorly. If somebody doesn't understand this complex procedure you're doing, that could really help them. They got to know that the rehab is important. You got to listen to your doctor. Otherwise, you could have complications. So if you're overlooking those things in some way, that may be potentially bad because of that relationship. So as far as what Yamaguchi was saying was that, if you have the ability to have that communication, we assume those things can make people better. So it's a good relationship where the patient has a problem. There's a fixable problem. It's identified through imaging and exam, and there's an agreement on diagnosis first. So I always say we must establish a diagnosis that we can agree on. Otherwise, I can't help you. If you think your right arm hurts and I say your left arm hurts, then that's a total disagreement, and surgery's not going to work out. Basically, it's 100% not going to work out. So if there's certain levels of complexity within cases, and your company has a lot of interest in development, product development, I think surgeons do as well. And patients are aware that surgeons want, what they think is best for them. And so if products are getting better and helping people, whatever way that is, with certain types of cost balances, obviously they look at those things to see how much development can we make, how much money can we make off of it. Is there something that's currently out there that people are going to be competing with? Or is it something totally new that can actually really help people? And I've seen a lot of new stuff from your company, specifically from you, really, that's shown me, wow, this is stuff that really does change my practice because now I'm using it all the time. So if I'm not having a specific conflict with your company, which I've had prior small conflicts receiving honoraria, but otherwise I don't have any ongoing relationship with your company. So basically, I try to use what's best for my patients in every sense. And what people may start to understand is that when surgeons are conflicted with certain companies, a lot of times those are relationships that they are evaluating those types of products. So that actually comes from the surgeons using them, having familiarity with them, and then trying to make product improvements on them. So I think all in all, the interesting concept is really surgeon relationship with industry, and where you're recommending these new products that can really change my practice. It entails some research, some product usage, but also the whole process is pretty regulated, and it's all regulated by the FDA.
Yeah.
So you're not basically using products that are not approved by the FDA.
Yeah, I mean, everything has FDA.
It's against the compliancy rules. You can't. You have to basically only endorse products that are approved by the FDA.
Yeah, I mean, the FDA is there for a reason, right?
Exactly. So it's an interesting process because a lot of times, even in training, these are not conversations that are really identified because it's really through surgeons that can evaluate products in a way that can be tested, usually through research. A lot of it comes from research, either in the lab, and you guys have a really awesome lab in Naples. Can you tell us more about that? How awesome that facility is? The playground, the surgeon's playground.
Well, I think
testing. They have research testing. They have workout facilities.
They do everything from ground up there.
Yeah.
There's no golf there actually.
You can hit a golf ball.
Yeah, there's a simulator.
Somewhere.
Yeah, there's a simulator.
Right.
Yeah.
You can practice golf stuff.
That would be nice. Be able to go there and play golf all the time. That's the dream, right?
There's a comment box, right?
Yeah. We can leave that next to at the workout facility center. Add the driving range.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible campus, and they do everything there from production to medical education to you name it. And it's a unique facility in that it's grown large and it crosses so many different aspects of making a company run. But I think talking about medical education, I mean, no one does it better than Arthrex does, and I think you can attest from your experience, going back and learning new products and just kind of seeing how the separating aspect of Arthrex being private versus some of these other public companies, and how
they're private, right?
Yeah, it's It's private, and why does that matter? And that matters because, they're
Innovation.
well, yeah, but why? Because they don't have to listen
Time.
to, they don't have to listen to a shareholder
Yeah.
sit there and say, hey, this product is, it's a great product, but guess what? Like, if we develop this and we put this into practice, we're going to lose money on it. And so what are those shareholders going to say? They're going to say, well, let's not do that then. Whereas, with Arthrex, if there's a product that they think is going to make surgery better or improve an outcome, then they don't have to get sign off from the shareholders, which puts it in a uniquely advantageous position to innovate, which is essentially why you're seeing innovation at a rate that no company has ever really done before. Definitely in orthopedics. I mean,
They're the giant in sports. No question. It's Arthrex.
it's not just sports though. Now it's what, because it's private, any division that they want to get into, it's a green light. So if you look at the different product lines, whether it's the video equipment or all the way down to us being a player in the trauma market and a top 3 shoulder replacement company in the country now. I mean, that doesn't happen without massive innovation and really top notch product development and so yeah, I've been doing this now for I think 13-ish years, and it's been a really fun ride to all with Arthrex, really fun ride to see the development over time. And when I was first starting, we were coming out with our first plating systems, and now I think 30-40% of our business comes from that. So it's wild to see.
It's expanded quite a bit, right?
And who knows what's coming down the pipeline,
Somebody knows.
We can have this conversation in 5 years and it's going to look way different.
And that's what's cool, right?
The private aspect is a game changer, and doing everything that that Arthrex does is it's to make sure that you have the best stuff to treat your patients, and that you're not you're not having to compromise just so someone else can make a quick buck. But I mean, yeah, there's obviously money involved in it, but it's much different coming from a public and private company.
They've always been private, right?
Yeah,
They've always been private.
Yeah, they've always been private.
How long have you worked there? When did you start with them? Because I met you in 2019, and that's when we went to that. I don't remember where it was, but it was basically a lab.
We went to Naples.
It was Naples, right?
Yeah,
that's where we first met.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That place was so awesome.
It was a fellows course.
That was the playground. So that playground is such a great place because it showed me this whole new dimension of what you can do with being a private company and have this area where if your interests are that exact thing, dependent on your interests of improving products at an advancing pace that will improve outcomes for patients, and then study them and have a place where it's your central hub for research, testing, basically R&D. And obviously these things are all openly known. It's really a place that surgeons will go to have a role in a lot of product development, and they give a lot of opportunity to young people, especially who have good skills, because the more skill that you have, you kind of get bored with things very quickly, and you may want to either expand your techniques through arthroscopy, which arthroscopy is a major part of sports surgery in general because it's minimally invasive. We're looking with a camera. We can explain a little bit about what arthroscopy even means. And I want to show some videos if that's cool too, like some of the media videos that we send to patients. I thought there was some new really cool development through the vault, the surgeon vault, that shows the animations. And I'm going to show them anyways. But
you should show them. But
how cool it is.
But
because it's something that really helps people understand things. And my whole thing with this, especially with the podcast, is shoulder knowledge. And with you here, have you ever had a shoulder injury?
I've never had a shoulder injury that requires surgery.
Okay. See, so you didn't meet the criteria for the show. So we're also expanding the show through the second episode. So really what the whole goal is to understand what the whole process of how shoulder problems is treated, to understand it through pathology and diagnosis, but also treatment and management. This is obviously a very relevant aspect to that is sports surgery. And what I perform is shoulder surgery, basically minimally invasive surgery. But with minimally invasive surgery, I also perform open surgery, basically everything related to shoulder and elbow pathology. Certain tumor pathology obviously gets transferred to people who manage tumors, even in orthopedics, like Allison. He's a specialist at that. And typically they're excellent surgeons. But with my role in that, with arthroscopy, what it is about the size of a pen, and that's the small poke holes that we make. And then we use a camera that has a light on it, fiber optic, right? And then through some other small portals, we'll make some small incisions. We'll add either plastic portals that are removed, but this is basically working portals or viewing portals where we can basically repair tissue or clean out tissue and do it with other small portals. So it is minimally invasive. We're working typically sometimes with very large surgery, such as the rotator cuff. You know how massive some of those cases that I do, how big those get, and how many anchors we have to use. And as there's development with these products, there's ways those very large cases can go faster. So if you're pumping a bunch of fluid through the shoulder, which we have to in these cases of arthroscopy, which means basically camera in the joint. So we're looking into the joint with a camera, and then that also pumps a certain pressure of water, which is saline. And now they're using lactated ringers, so apparently you can just use that. What you don't want to use is just regular water. Obviously, folks out there, don't do arthroscopy without training or a medical license. Disclaimer, I'll put that at the bottom. Disclaimer, don't practice medicine without a license, which is true. You will get arrested. And so my point was, with arthroscopy, there's certain types of advantages with technique that clearly the slick guys, and you see a lot of slick surgeons at these courses that you guys hold in Naples and pretty much throughout the country, these sports surgeons that have developed their techniques and gotten bored with some other things and basically developed new products that work way better than things that have been out for a long time. Isn't that true? Would you agree with that sentiment to some extent? That
Well, I didn't know how bored you were in surgery. I was
me?
Yeah,
I'm not bored, but you can get bored to a certain extent, and that's what's so cool is you guys have stuff that every maybe couple years is evolving and coming out and developed, because I've seen changes just in practice on what's available. So typically, once you start practice, you use whatever technology is available at the time. I didn't have, for example, all suture anchors. Those didn't exist. They weren't on the market when I was in training. So I wasn't trained on them. But excuse me. But that came out when a couple years, one time I was in practice, was all suture anchors. And that was something that you introduced me to.
Well, all the innovation happens from feedback, whether it's from surgeons or from product developers or, from surgical techs, anyone that's
Input.
Anyone that's watching surgery and understanding what's going on, you can have an idea of how to make something better, and then there are companies out there that will help develop, whether it's a product, an instrument, whatever, device. Let's call it a device. That is the industry, and with feedback over time, things get better. I mean, that's like any industry with attention to development and innovation, then over time things will get better. And so you'll continue to see innovation, because there's still a lot that can get better, and we're not perfect at anything we do. And with an innovative mind like you have, I mean, how many conversations have we had talking about how do we make this slightly better? And with a bunch of slightly better developments over time, you get a completely different type of product. And so, that's a really fun way for innovators to think and to go about adding, a level of complexity to your job or to your level of interest to keep you sharp and interested. So I'm sure there's tons of things that you're thinking about right now that are potential, products that could make surgery better. And there's lots of industry out there that would love to make those better and to test them out and make sure that they're they're safe and that they're improving outcomes, because that's the goal, right?
Evolving, right? It's not done. It's not one and done. It's constantly evolving. Even in the same field, it could be totally replaced by something new and cool I haven't even thought of, right? Something like that. I didn't even know.
You're doing surgery right now, and the way you're doing it, you're going to look back at it in 20 years and you're going to laugh.
What's interesting about the way that you are standing at is the stream that is flowing by. And you got into this, what year did you get into this to start seeing the water flow?
2012, 2013.
For products.
20,
yeah, right. So you saw this, which was before 2020, and before, I think 2010, there was a lot of research that was done that really moved a lot in terms of arthroscopy. So the 2010s to the 2020s, there was a lot of development in sports. And when you started that, you're this guy that is seeing it at that point and then seeing what's now in 2025, that whole river that's been flowing by of these things that have come and kind of gone in terms of favor and what's being used in realistic terms, what are surgeons actually using at academic institutions and practicing surgeons who are doing shoulder surgery and using these implants and actually have a significant interest in improving their outcomes, maybe getting done in time so they can go play golf or go home and record a podcast, or improve efficiency so they can get more cases done throughout the day. And so these products matter to a really significant extent, and really training on those products is another big role that you serve as well, which is you are aware of where this stream has been going for pretty much a long time. So you have this pretty good sense of what surgeons are using, how they use them, what they complain about, and you bring that back to, your boss, and they want to know about the numbers and why certain people aren't using certain things. And so you have conversations with people because those are the relationships that matter. And those are those little portals of communication between you and the surgeon that are essential, and there has to be trust there. And you showed me that you do have to trust your rep, and they can help you. So you develop a personal relationship with certain people, and it can really help patient outcomes by nurturing these relationships and understanding that you and I have a common interest of helping patients, basically, because that's the company that you work for. They want to help improve outcomes with patients, and so there's an alignment there. But that role really shows that that's something that you can continue to have a significant role in patient care. And the other cool thing was that you showed me this really cool new thing called Surgeon Vault, because I think videos are super cool. Brought to you by Videos. Once again, no affiliation with Videos, but I think videos are great. And what this app has, I was just going to show you, I've been recording this the whole time. It shows you how the surgery is done. And so you can just play these little links like this, and this little real-time player
designed to repair small tears of the rotator
Can you hear that?
cuff. If the torn rotator cuff is not repaired,
I can hear it.
arthritis may develop in the shoulder.
Right? And then
The surgeon begins by identifying
you just
the
sew
tear in
that
the rotator
sew that
cuff
down.
tendon.
But this shows patients
cuff
how
is
to
brought over
how,
to
how
its
like what
original
the
attachment site
actual
to ensure
procedure
that
is
the
done through an
repair can be
animation.
completed
Well, let me
without
ask you this.
And it just helps you make sense of
A
it.
burr is
And this is
used
just
to
through a little
create a
video.
spot on
I
the
send this
humerus
now
where the
because of
cuff
you
will
and what you
heal.
showed me. I
Once
send
the
these
bone and
videos to my
soft
patients
tissues
after
are
the surgery.
prepared to
They can even
reattach
get them
the
before
cuff,
the surgery
the
and look at
surgeon
them
uses a
online.
multi-fire scorpion
You can give the
suture passer
website,
to
but
place suture
I'll
through
put
the
we should put the
rotator cuff
website
from
in the
bottom
link
to the
there because
top.
there's a lot of people who want to go into orthopedics that watch this.
Suture passer
And
allows the
you
surgeon
can
to reposition the
you can
instrument
look at these
prior to
videos even to
passing
learn
the
what a
second
rotator cuff
suture.
repair is, what a biceps
sutures are then
tenodesis is.
retrieved
These
and
are words your
stored
doctor is
inside
saying
the
you might
cannula.
see on your forms, and you're like, what is he going to actually do? So these videos really help. And then you compare these to the little pictures that I send them, and I can email people links to that now, so they can just watch these things, and I can tailor it specifically to exactly what the patient had for that day, and then that communicates it really well with them. Pat Denard showed me that, and then you actually helped me get this in and usable, and this has totally changed my communication with my patients. Really, it's helped a lot, and it's streamlined things. I spend way less time trying to explain things to them. They watch a video, and it saves a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, being able to do what you're doing so much better for your patients. I mean, when you go see a patient post-op after surgery, what state are they in? I mean, I bet you the majority of time they don't even remember anything that you told them.
And the other thing is sometimes, and they usually don't. And when they tell you what, they may even don't remember talking to you. The other thing is you may have spoken with them about surgery, and it's been months since they get the surgery done. And so that way they'll help them recollect a lot of these things that you did speak with them months ago.
Using the FiberTac button implant system. Make a 2
Is this
to 3
playing through the
centimeter
audio, or is it
incision
playing
in
through the
axilla
speakers?
at
I think it's
the
playing through the
inferior border of
iPad.
the pectoralis
Oh, it's
major.
playing it out
Bluntly
loud.
dissect to
I
identify
had it
the
linked up
pectoralis
earlier,
major and
but
the
I'll have the
long
audio
head
come
of
through
biceps
the
tendon.
final.
Retrieve
through
the
the
Or it might be
final sound.
my headphones are not.
I think it's hearing the mic. This one's cool because this one's open biceps tenodesis. I've totally changed this now too. So this is something that I've changed. I started using the arthroscopic biceps tenodesis. I want to do another segment on biceps tenodesis because I think that's worth a whole section on. But I used to use these in the, I still do these in the joint, but I typically use a bigger anchor. And I use a double suture now. I use a fiber tape, I wrap it, I suture it. But that loop and tack is awesome. This is the open way to do it. You can kind of do this through the scope a little bit higher, but this is the one where if it does fail or they have a rupture, you have to open it. And this is the sub-pec biceps. So I've changed now. I just do these sub-pec now and I do them open. If either they are rupture, I do them sub-pec, or if I did it previously or somebody else did it previously, sew it up here in the joint, it tears down. I used to try to fix it up here, open, and it may just re-tear down. Those, it's I think better to try to just sew it up down here and then hold it up with an anchor. And 2 anchors may be better, but 1 anchor typically is fine. But all suture anchors you can use for this, the little fiber tape button, right? Isn't that what this one is?
Yeah, it's a FiberTac. It's an interesting
FiberTac button.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
That one's awesome too.
It's an interesting statement that you make because
See, there's a suture and then there's a little anchor on the right.
the surgeon and the rep relationship is so important, and the rep kind of gets a bad rap every once in a while.
Who says?
Who would have thought, right?
Who says
that?
I don't say that.
They get
I
bad-
like you.
they
You're
get-
my friend. You're on my podcast.
They can get a bad rap. They're pushing me out to use these new products, blah 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 blah. But that's not really what our
Are
job.
you pushy?
No, of course we're
Some
not
people
pushy.
are though, right?
But what, like our job is not to tell you what's best, right? Our job is to give you all the options that we have and give you the information that you need, and then it's your job to make the decision on what's best for that patient. And having different options and being informed with your your surgical your surgical options is the best way to give your patients the best outcome, because not every surgery is the same. Different surgeries require different types of repairs, reconstructions, etc. And this is a good example. I mean, biceps has so many different ways of repairing, and there's a reason for that. It's the literature probably doesn't point you in one direction. It varies from person to person, and because the literature is all over the place, there's not one good way to do it, right?
Exactly. Not a good one way, not one perfect way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
But there may be one best way for that surgeon in his hands to do it, and he knows that.
Yeah, and maybe that patient is different than a different patient.
Right. Something may be reliable, and that's what the surgeon does. Is he maybe will choose a different procedure. So these video library that you have is really cool for that reason, just to tell surgeons as well, these are the techniques we have to offer. Look at this animation. Maybe doing this procedure a totally different way is maybe something now workable, because that surgeon got a little bored with how he was doing it. And I hate to use the term bored because it kind of implies we don't necessarily like doing this repetitive task, but in the sense of looking for ways to make progress of either less invasive, which at this point probably can't make things much less invasive unless we change what arthroscopy is.
Well, we're already
The whole
doing
system.
that with smaller scopes. I mean,
Nano.
if you're using nanoscope,
Panoscope, nanopano.
nano
You guys are gonna have a whole
I mean,
system.
that's less invasive than what you're doing right now. So there still are improvements there, and who knows what's coming next.
Like this one was something that you showed me that I can do this in the joint. And I wasn't trained on this, and I talked to Denard about it, and I watched him do it. I think I watched him do it. I'm not sure if this was out when I came out to visit him in Oregon. Pat Denard, one of the best surgeons in the country, I would say, highest level of academics, professional behavior, as far as I know, arthroplasty, sports, teaching fellows, publishing. I might have said academics. He's amazing. He's one of the most incredible studs I've seen in shoulder surgery, and a good friend of mine. Have you spoken with him? How's he doing?
I haven't seen him since you and I saw him.
He's a cool guy. I'd love to have him down. If he's in LA, I should have him on. Was starting to train jujitsu, and he was asking me about jujitsu. And he's really fit. He's obviously like a mountain man. I'm not sure what his sports are. I think he rides mountain bikes, obviously. And he does all this stuff. And he's online on social media. I watch his videos. We should look at his videos.
The world's most accomplished man.
Yeah, let's find his videos. You have his Instagram, right? You follow him. Subscribe to me on YouTube. Subscribe, folks. Don't forget to subscribe. And to Mark Davidson on your OnlyFans. You have an OnlyFans that you want to talk about?
Yeah, it's funding our lifestyle.
Who was I looking up?
Pat Denard.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks. You want me to be my producer? I'm looking for a producer for the show. Although I can't pay you. But you could be my friend and we can drink Mandala together. Also, this show is not sponsored by Mandala, but we love Mandala. Cheers to Mandala. For a smoothie, delicious tequila choice, choose Mandala.
Smoothie.
Smoothie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna trademark that. So this is Pat Denard. He's up in Oregon in Bend, and you see he makes these videos. He's constantly posting on Instagram. It's kind of cool. He'll show his surgical setup, gowning, gloving. This is what it looks like. I've been using these Ray-Ban Meta glasses for this. I don't know if he got them or he attached a GoPro, but it looks really cool because you can show these little clips. So he does these kind of talks, but also shows stuff on literature. I think. Let's see what he talked about today. That's cool. But go to his page. Look, 18,000 followers now, because he's always putting stuff, and it's really him doing it, and that's what's kind of cool too. You can get a kind of a direct connection to these guys, and you should follow my Instagram too. Mine's at Ellie Shoulder. That's my page. I do jiu-jitsu and do podcasting and go to UFC stuff.
And do surgery.
So I kind of put a mix of stuff on here. All right. And what's your Instagram, Mark?
Mark
on at insta.com.
I haven't put anything on Instagram since 2019.
Do you have a MySpace?
It's probably still up there. Tom and I are still friends.
It plays music when you
yeah.
your page.
See, we're the same age, so we learned about MySpace together. We learned about Facebook together. We're
Facebook.
With the Facebook, we're coming up in this world together.
So where did you grow up? You grew up in Colorado?
South Pasadena, California, Los
got
Angeles.
this wrong twice now.
Right down the street.
I want people to be from other places.
Yeah, no, I'm born
Pasadena,
and raised in LA.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what was that like? How many brothers do you have?
Got 2 brothers. I'm the middle child.
Athletic guys.
Big athletic family. I grew up playing soccer, transitioned into a big golfer in high school, and I thought I was gonna work in the golf industry. I guess I didn't think I did work in the golf industry. That was my first job out of college, and then
were you a caddy or were you were a trainer, right? An instructor?
I worked at I did a number of different jobs from.
Mark's a scratch golfer, by the way.
from
people that don't know.
From raking bunkers to working in the golf shop to giving lessons. I thought I was going to be a golf pro, like work at a country club, teach golf lessons, that kind of thing. And that's what I wanted to do post college. Did it for a year and realized that that actually wasn't the pathway that was going to make me most fulfilled, and it was a little bit boring. And my uncle's an orthopedic surgeon, and he introduced me to what a medical device rep is, and from there that's when I started with Arthrex, and now 13 years later, here we are.
What was your job like back then when you started working as a rep? What were you expected to do? Well, and how did you get experience with that? Did you know anything about surgery? Did you know anything about, you knew sports, but did you know anything about medicine or what surgery was or what it's like in the, had you ever been in an OR before?
I didn't know anything. I knew nothing. Like
you never been to the doctor for a significant issue or had surgery or anything like that, right?
When I say I know nothing, like that is about as fact.
Because you're one
as
of
it
the
can be.
smartest guys I know. I mean, you really understand these things.
I didn't know
From an
anatomy.
orthopedic perspective,
I didn't
you
know
know sports surgery
anatomy.
well.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I still remember when I went to the OR for the first time. I called my uncle before. I said, "Hey, I'm going to an interview for this job."
How old were you?
23, maybe.
So right after college.
Yeah,
You went to college, right?
went to Florida State.
Yeah. You play golf there?
I did not. Another one of my non-accomplishments.
Just on the side the whole time.
Yeah.
Scratch golfing people, hustling.
I played a lot of golf. I did not play on the golf team.
just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
playing golf, enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
Growing your hair out.
yeah, getting tan.
Getting the sun down, top down in the car, cruising.
Yeah, all those things.
Right. And then you said,
Living the good life.
I need to figure out my life now. I need a job.
Well, I was going to the golf course, going out partying till 2 and then going to the golf course at 5 a.m. to go work.
So you had a good life. Why change?
Yeah. Very, speaking of longevity,
Maybe not sustainable activity.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun, but not sustainable.
So, no, I mean, it was an interesting start. This is a challenging job. I mean, it's constant learning. You never know it all. I mean, think about who our customers are. Our customers are some of the smartest people that are in this world, right?
Surgeons.
Exactly. And so if you can't speak to your customer at the level that they need to be spoken to, so you guys have an understanding of what's going on, then you're not really going to be able to sell anything. And so you think about someone getting into this industry from not knowing anything, and the first, medicine's a foreign language. From terms like anterior, posterior, like who knows what that means if you're not in medicine? Not many people. Maybe people know what prone means. They've heard that term, but this is a whole foreign language.
So you had to be educated, right? But did you have any sales experience at the time?
No.
You knew that it was going to be a sales job, though, right? You're interested in sales job,
but didn't really have a sales background. So like I said, I was
Dad's a surgeon.
uncle.
Sorry. And I'm sorry. What does your dad do for work?
My dad was in insurance.
Insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. So sales there. So you had some kind of sales to a certain extent where your dad was talking to people. Did he sell insurance?
Yeah.
Or did he work for a company?
Yeah, he sold insurance.
Right. So maybe there's some aspect of that, just through, even if, maybe my kids don't know exactly what I do, they can kind of see some pictures at some time where maybe that's at least in your head.
Yeah.
But then from there, no experience. College major was what?
Business and hospitality.
Business, hospitality, taking care of people and learning how to make
Customer service.
money.
Customer service.
They go together. They can go together.
Well,
Customer service
they
is
do
a
in
major
this
part
industry.
of it, depending on what the industry is, right? And then it's how much customer service you want to provide. So I've been a little more critical of just being aware of those things, especially as prices go up. You're like, what are we paying for some of these restaurants or some of these hotels? So I would imagine that these are some things that continue to be important. It's how you're treated. We should all treat each other well. Some people think for some reason, one way or the other, when you're in a work environment, you can be rude to another person outside of that work environment. Say a customer coming in, being rude to either a doctor or somebody at McDonald's is pretty much the same thing. And then the McDonald's person or the surgeon being rude to the customer, who's the patient, would also be not tolerated. So those are things where we should all be just nice to each other and generally try to be nice to one another at work, outside of work, and meta work as well. But so were you looking for any kind of job? Or were you saying you thought that would be a good job for you, where you could excel?
Well,
Was there a point where you decided that's what you wanted to do and get into that industry, and you thought you'd be good at it? Because clearly you're one of the best reps I've ever worked with.
Thank
and
you.
I worked with a lot of great reps.
Thank you. No, my uncle, I was at dinner with him. He said, "How's the golf job going?" I said, "It's fine. I'm a little bored."
You get bored too, even with golf.
I'm not really learning anything.
You're exceptional golfer.
Showing up every day. I mean, yeah, but working in golf and playing golf are two different stories. I think everyone that originally wants to work in golf, they want to do it because they want to play a bunch of golf. And then once you're working in golf, you don't get to play much golf. So, they
golf
kind of get
activities,
you there. Yeah.
golf adjacent.
Yeah, I mean, so I was having dinner with him, and he was asking me how it was going, and I was telling him I'm bored. It's fine. Like I'm showing up every day, but I don't know how much longer I'm going to feel fulfilled doing this. And he was the one that suggested the medical device and said, hey, I think you'd be good at this. You're personable. This is an ever-changing industry where you'll always be challenged to continue to learn, and I don't think you'll be bored, et cetera. And so I said, all right, well, let's see if I can break in. And so he introduced me to a couple of his reps.
You had an opportunity.
Had an opportunity, which he created for me, and I met them. And
being a good candidate for that, for a good opportunity, tends to make it more likely to have an opportunity that works well for you, if you're that guy that's kind of ready for something good. And so I think working on being a good guy and having good values and, either family values, work values, consistency, these are things that we develop in life. So if you're just a good guy, you had no experience, you basically are right for the job. Something opened up and it made sense, and look where it's going. I mean, I think, do you have any, I wish I wasn't here? I mean, I don't think I can't, right? Yeah. You smile. I mean, there's no way. I think, this has given you, I think, a point where, you're, clearly you've made a lot of progress within your own company, and your company's gone through some changes, I think, and developed into some other companies that sometimes these things change with basically distributorships, right? You work for a distributorship. You don't technically work for Arthrex, but you're a representative of their products. Arthrex is a company, and you work basically as a distributor for their products, which has its own structure separate from Arthrex, but related to the corporate structure within the industries that are actually developing the products. Because your company doesn't develop products, correct? Right?
So
can you explain that relationship and what a distributorship is?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways that it's done, right? There's distributors, agencies, and then there's direct employees of big companies. So
like Brenton.
Yeah.
Brenton now works for Arthrex, but he didn't always. He worked for your company, and then he transferred to the company.
Right.
As far as I...
Yeah. So
and worked his way up, and he's working his way up in a very good way. As far as I know, he's very happy about his progress within both companies, and Brenton is also exceptional. So they take exceptional people and not sponsored by Arthrex, by the way, but so far, my involvement with that has been, I've seen it myself, and Brenton is, it's nice to see a company take somebody that actually has a lot of value, recognize it, and then say, let's make this something that we can put you in a position where you can help our company, but also he has a bigger role in, really understanding what's going on and helping managing things from, he still does arthroplasty, right? Shoulder arthroplasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great because he has such excellent knowledge of anatomy and arthroplasty, and he's one of the best arthroplasty reps I've ever had as well. And that's two guys, within this company. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, so to answer the original question on the difference between a direct rep versus an outside rep.
Direct rep meaning somebody like Brenton.
No. Yeah, but.
Or Smith and Nephew has direct reps where they work for that company.
Yeah, use some of the a bigger company like a Medtronic or someone, and I don't know how they do it exactly, but there's companies that have employees that are sales employees of the manufacturer, and they employ everyone, and everyone works for the manufacturer. And then there's companies that outsource their sales teams, and they do that geographically. And so those are called, distributors or agencies, is what we call it at Arthrex. And that's because we don't distribute multiple manufacturers. We distribute one, whereas a distributor model
with a lot of products,
you could pick up multiple different lines. So you might have a rep that carries 4 or 5 different manufacturers' products, and in order to do that, you have to start small, build up a brand and reputation for yourself, call it whatever you want. You can call it, I'm Team Green, and Team Green picks up a product line. They have to they have to be able to grow and develop that and grow sales and have a reputation within the community. And then when you do well with one product line, then you have a resume, and now you can go to other manufacturers and pick up additional products because you have a proven track record of being able to sell product, and you have relationships, and you're knowledgeable. And so you can build up an entire portfolio of product from all these different companies, and you can build your own small business that way. With Arthrex, you don't do that. We would distribute just a single manufacturer product line, which is the Arthrex product. And so that's a unique position in itself. And then you have the direct employees that are say you're a Medtronic rep, you distribute Medtronic product. You're not going out and picking up other lines that compete with the company that hires you and that you work for. So there's just different ways that these companies are set up. I'm sure there's benefits to both, and there's just different ways of doing it.
So when you were first starting out and they first said, okay, finally you've done your sexual harassment training, check. You've done your credentialing, we have a copy of your ID, you went to college and we got your transcripts. You had to send your transcripts, right? And do a background check.
But all that stuff.
Standard stuff.
The first job, right?
Yeah. And then they sent you a video you have to watch or something.
Yeah.
After all
HR.
Well, you do all that, right? And then
Sure.
they're like, okay, so what about a training? How much training did you do? Did you do like a training
Yeah, I mean,
to learn? Because you didn't know anything, you said. How are you going to start when you don't know anything?
I didn't know
How do you
anything.
learn stuff?
yeah, I didn't know anything.
How did you learn stuff?
I
You're
walked
so
in-
smart, Mark. I think you're so smart.
Thanks. I walked into the OR and I started getting my hands dirty. Went to the back table, started touching things. No, I'm just kidding.
Back table?
You obviously can't do
The
that.
sterile table?
Yeah. of
Don't
course.
lie. You don't lie.
Yes.
Don't lie. No, you can't touch the blue stuff, right? Anything blue, don't touch.
If it's blue, don't
That's
touch
pretty
it.
much the first rule you learn.
And put your mask
Put
on.
a mask on.
Put it and cover your hair.
Definitely cover your hair. Pretty much, then don't touch the blue stuff.
Don't touch anything.
And then you can hang out for a while at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
and have your badge.
You can make it for at least a couple weeks that way.
A couple weeks, and then
Yeah.
somebody will like, who's that guy? Who's that guy in the back? Depends how annoying you are. But if you're quiet, it's not good either. You should, if you know what you're talking about, you should say stuff. But if you don't know what you're talking about, you should say, what? I don't know, but that guy knows. There should be somebody there that knows.
Let me find out for
Let
you.
me find out for you. I'll
Yeah.
look it up real quick.
Yeah, I mean,
so
look-
did you learn a lot on the job?
I've only worked in this industry. I've only worked for one company. So, I don't know how everyone does their trainings. I only know how we do ours. And
How long was that process from your sign off to actually going and you're there, so you're getting paid?
I mean,
Not paid to learn anymore, paid to start showing up. And,
Yeah.
Was it an apprenticeship?
look, I'm
apprenticeship?
going to start by saying every single day I'm still learning stuff in this job. I mean,
That's why you're so cool.
we're
Mark.
continuing our education as we go. I mean, I do online testing and videos and learning, on a monthly basis.
Maintenance.
It's not just maintenance; it's
Updates.
innovation and new stuff. I
That's
mean,
cool. You have to be able to read and learn and absorb new stuff.
if you're not doing it, then you're falling behind. And so, like I said, I can only speak for one company. I know not everyone's like that, but we are. And so it's constant. But from the beginning, the way we did it, this is when I was living in Atlanta. You get hired and you have some people that work for the company, and they take you and show you the different products, and they teach you about the different surgical instrumentation and trays. Back then we were doing, majority of our business was shoulder arthroscopy and knee arthroscopy. Now it's a completely different story with all the different product lines that we have. But back then it was, hey, this is what a shoulder is. You need to learn the main anatomy and learn the different, rotator cuff muscles and
How did you do that? How did you learn the anatomy?
well, I mean, arthrex.com is probably the place where most people,
Like the videos, right? It shows
Most
you
people,
anatomy.
most people that work for Arthrex and most people that work for competitors, they all use the Arthrex website to learn, because it's, I mean, if you go on there, you can.
I
learn,
use it.
Everyone uses it because it's
Great resource. Free too.
It's
And
the,
if you're
it's the
patient, you can look at
Wikipedia
stuff.
of orthopedics.
Right.
And so, luckily enough, I have access to the internal learning, which is great. I mean, you can learn how to do any procedure. You can learn about all the products. You can spend your entire day for months on end on that website learning new things, and you'll never run out of material. So I mean, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of standing in the OR with senior reps, and they're showing you the ropes, teaching you. You're looking at the screen. If it's an arthroscopy, and they're saying, okay, what's that structure there? Quizzing you,
listening to the surgeon talk too, if he's teaching, right? You
listening
can learn anatomy that way.
There's nothing better.
Especially me, I think I probably taught you a lot of anatomy too during cases.
There's nothing better than a surgeon that's willing to recognize that someone wants to learn and teach them.
Obviously, it's been a long time. There's been a lot of new development in the field, and you have to stay up to date with that. Do you have any process? Obviously, when you first started out, you're like, I need to learn anatomy. I need to learn what a shoulder is, what a rotator cuff is, and then basically what the procedure is, what arthroscopy is. So podcasts like this one might have been helpful from the start, maybe even for industry reps who are first starting out, because they can kind of understand what the process is for learning. So you definitely need to know anatomy, at least kind of what the basic anatomy is. So how can people look at anatomy?
You have to have the desire to want to learn.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, and you're not interested in that, then you're never going to be able to do this job. Think about it. Any other job, if you don't want to learn how to do it, then you're never going to be good at it.
So you have to want to do it. And there's a lot of people that do want to get better. You clearly see some people that seems like they don't necessarily want to learn, or maybe it's just too much for them and they don't realize how much you have to learn and continue to learn.
Yeah, they should listen to this podcast, because then it might discourage them from doing something that will just set them a couple years back in their career path.
Yeah, be realistic. And you should do exactly what you want. Whatever it is for your job, you should really be fulfilled to some extent and be happy with your decision. Maybe it's not the end career, but maybe it brings you to a point where you're doing something different, or maybe branching out in different ways, doing other jobs, or entrepreneurship through LLC and things like that. We live in America. It's a beautiful thing. You should use it. It's one of those things where people came here and made something from nothing. And we can really do that. You can be poor and have no money and nothing to your name, and become very financially wealthy through your own mind and development, especially through podcasting and production. And that's kind of what I'm getting into now, is more production and video content, because I have the ability to provide some information for people that I think can be helpful. But so I had to learn how to learn in medical school. In college, I learned through flashcards a lot of the time, so I could remember a lot of facts. So I would literally write out flashcards for vocabulary, for English tests, even for math. Sometimes if I could put it on a flashcard and it could help me remember something, I used flashcards, because I just knew I had to get as close to straight as possible to get into medical school. And in medical school, it's like that, but with everybody's like that. So everybody has their own little system. And then you have to learn this overwhelmingly greater amount of information in 1 year, and then a second year. And then you got to go into practice in the hospital, like you were doing on the job training. You got to learn, but we do medical school for that for 2 years through, they're called rotations I think they're called that in medical school, but they're basically clerkships. They're called clerkships, rotating clerkships as a third year and as a fourth year for electives and clerkships. And the learning there is more on the job. So you have to know how to do both. But early on, you have to learn how to learn. And I had to learn how to take tests, learning a bunch of overwhelming amount of information. So there's something in between. And I think that you need to understand where to find the information. In today's world, you can use ChatGPT. I use that. I have it set up for this because in case I need to look anything up, I use that. It's pretty much replaced Google for me. But these AI systems are now helping us access information a lot easier. So learning, it becomes, I think, a little easier to get the information. Now, the second part of that is you have to want to do it, which you said you have to want to learn. So you need those two things. So we have better access now. And as long as you want to learn, you should be able to learn that. But it's still a certain amount of information that you have to get through and you have to retain so that you can use it for your job and maybe for other things. But is there a process that you use now to learn, to stay up to date on your products, how to use them, whether or not it's something you think a particular surgeon can use? Like, what's your process for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think conceptually, if you understand what's going on in the procedures, it makes adding additional information to those things significantly easier. So like take rotator cuff repair, for example.
What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by what?
By what you just said.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So take a rotator.
Just be patient, my son.
Yeah, listen up. So take rotator cuff for an example, right? You know, I'm not learning what a supraspinatus is or an infraspinatus.
Not anymore. You already learned.
Right. I know.
You put your time in.
You asked me now.
I'll put my reps in, son, as a rep.
Yeah. So now that I understand the
You're a
concepts,
senior rep now. You're still a rep, right?
I'm a senior bottom rep.
You're at the bottom of the very top of some type of structure within rep world.
I'm in the system. Okay.
You're within the structure.
I have an email.
Yeah. You have a nice office
And a
now,
car.
too.
I think I
You
have a
sit in the
car.
office. You don't come to my OR anymore. You sit in the office.
The
now.
OR is my office.
Like the dick, that one's for you. If you're watching, you know what I mean.
So yeah, I'm not learning what a rotator cuff is anymore. So now I can focus on other things, right? And so when something else, like let's just say we have a new anchor that comes out for a rotator cuff repair, you know, I'm learning.
Got to show Mike Stone.
Well, what's
Right away.
Maybe. I mean,
You should.
Yeah,
Tell me if it's good or
possibly.
not, though. Make sure it's good, though.
depends on it. Is it more
But
expensive?
at least show me. It might be. But you'll show me, and you'll tell whether or not you like it. To me, doesn't matter that much.
Like I said earlier, my
You'll
job,
tell me if
my
it-
job is not to tell you if it's better or worse. It's to give you the information, and your job is to decide if it's the best for your patient.
I think so too, and that's kind of why I think we have a good working relationship.
I mean, ultimately, that's what's going to make.
Because you show me cool stuff.
Yeah, you should see everything, right, and give it a chance. Not give it a chance in a patient, but give it a chance.
Show me what you got.
Is this a viable product that might work better than what you're currently using?
Yeah.
So yeah, the amount of information that you intake over time becomes less because you already have your building blocks, you already have the language down. So I'm not learning a new tendon, I'm learning a new anchor, or I'm learning a new feature of an anchor.
What how do you go about that? So they send you guys some type of product, a brochure, or they send you videos, or you're doing your training videos. But what if there's a new product that you really need to learn about, say to tell me about? What would your process for that be? Something that you see, like the loop intact. You're like,
Sure.
Clearly you were like, he might be able to use this. How did you go about learning that device? And then obviously showing me, but what was the process for that? For learning that device?
So a new device gets released, and I get sent the information. Hey, this is a new.
That's a device combined with a product, right? It's a device that has a
Well, all products are devices.
structure.
Device is just a generalized term that means like a SKU that could be used in surgery, right?
Sure. Well, one thing is something that I use that's disposable. The other thing is something that I implant to fixate. But the implant is not the new part. It's the device part of that.
Potentially. I mean, I would consider
For that in particular, for the loop intact.
Yeah. Well, the loop intact has
And kind of a technique, right? It's a technique with this device.
well, technique is biceps tenodesis, you know, high in the groove or whatever you're doing, which isn't new. I mean, you can already do that.
You might do it with different, like say a bird's beak, for example, but that device helped me because it's much smaller. It
Yeah.
actually is much
So there's a new
grabbable.
That is a device.
I'll show
right?
it. You can go ahead and I'm going to pull it up because
Sure.
I want to show it.
So that is a device that's an innovative device. It's helping you do something less invasive in less steps. So that is a new device. But the anchor could be a new device too. It's not in this particular situation, but it could be. So anyways, the information comes to me. I look it up. I read about, you know, our company produces, you know, whether it's a technique guide or just a sales release, bulletin release that has information about whatever it is. Hey, this is features and benefits of the product. Here is the studies that we did internally to test against other products. Here are some situations where this could be, this might be beneficial for your surgeons. That kind of information. And then I take it to you and I say, hey, what do you think about this? And then we have a conversation. And that's the fun part about my job is I get to bounce off new products with you and then get your input on it. And then, that's information that I can give back to the manufacturer or internalize how, depending on what it is. And then we build that together where now we have a working relationship where I understand when and why you want to use things, and that helps in surgery when I'm sitting there paying attention to what you're doing, and when you ask for something, there's no confusion between what you need and what I'm giving you.
But that's such a hard thing for some people to do.
It is hard, but
once you are trying to say, hey, go learn this product, what does that mean? Some people, they'll say, okay, I'll read the brochure, I'll watch the videos, but yet they'll come to the OR and they just won't understand what I'm talking about. And I don't know if it's a prep issue. Maybe they didn't read everything about it. What I'm saying is I think some people have a hard time learning something to an extent that they will then use in the real world to be fully aware of all of the capabilities from the first time you're using that thing. I don't think most people can't do that, right? It takes time and experience through use and failure. There's a lot of things that we'll see during cases that may end up as something doesn't open up or it's put in backwards. Sometimes there's things that you see that you just didn't even know. Oh, I didn't even know that could happen. You and I have had problems together through real-time use where anchors may pull out or devices may malfunction. And it teaches us things. It teaches us both things where you can bring that back to the company and report it. Depending on how bad it is, if there's implants that break and are inside of patients, I have to talk to the family about it. And then we got to decide if it's something I got to go take out or if it's safe to leave in that won't cause any further issues. Most things, if they're free floating, if they're stuck in tissue, they won't cause further issues. But it really depends. And sometimes you have to watch certain things, and things do break, and new things may break, and sometimes they do. So especially experienced surgeons, sometimes inexperienced surgeons, I would recommend things that are reliable and not trying out new things for the first time in the OR until you're comfortable with reliable ways to complete the procedure. Because like I said, this loop and tack, it's been awesome. And I haven't personally had any particular issues to make me say, hey, I'm not going to use this device. You got to change it. I have before, haven't I, with other things? There's things that I say, this is just not working for me. And I've tried it out and I just say it's not working for me. And then maybe the time goes on and they've made updates to the process of putting it in, maybe making it easier, or maybe it's exactly the same and I've gotten better. See, even for grafting, those types of procedures, you don't do that much of them. And it takes time and experience to get better at certain portions of the procedure, such as adding in grafts. So if the technology can actually have ways that can help the surgeon actually get better, you can try it out in labs too. We did a lot of labs together, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing is you should never be using something and you
In a
don't,
cadaver
and
lab.
you don't do that.
On a
which is
human
great.
shoulder.
You should never be trying something out that you're not comfortable with.
I never do that. I will use a new product if it's something that is comparable and it is within a company that has already been out and tested. I'll try it. If it's something that I feel comfortable with, that's pretty rare. Almost every new product I want to try out, I try it out in a cadaver lab first because I want to see it fail or cause problems, or I'm going to try to mess it up in a cadaver first.
But
even one time will teach me about it.
But even
that's
if,
just what I do.
Even if it's
That's
not
my
in a
process.
cadaver, right? You still have internally a system that you have to go through to feel comfortable using it. And what,
I have my own personal
you
way.
have your own system. So whether it be the literature that is backing it that you trust, whether it be doing it in a cadaver lab, whether it be just understanding how it's different from something that's a very similar product but slightly different, whatever the level of comfortability it is, that's personal for you and it's personal for every surgeon.
And it may change with time too.
And I'm sure it will change with time because people change with time, right? And so
So do surgeons. They're people too, okay?
surgeons are people too.
So are reps, all right? Don't forget that. Surgeons out there, reps are in fact people. So treat them that way. It may not seem like it sometimes, but you are. I know you're a person, Mark.
But yeah,
You're my friend.
But it's all one kind of big symbiotic relationship that you have to have with each other to understand levels of comfortability and making sure that these are people who are these are humans that are alive, that are in the operating room. Like you have to feel comfortable and understand the level of technology or whatever you're implementing.
Maybe the level of understanding to meet the surgeons where they're at, right?
Well, it's all about meeting each other where, you have to meet the surgeon where they're at. The surgeon has to understand the rep as well. I mean, that's why it's a relationship. It goes both ways. A lot of times that gets lost and we're talking about really important, really important parts of procedures and in parts of a job. And so the better you can have that relationship, the more smooth things are gonna go.
I'm gonna show a little video. I have this old arthroscopy on my Instagram. It's all basically HIPAA protected. This was all consented, folks. Yeah, so these are just demos of what it's like to see what an arthroscopy looks like. For example, this was a rotator cuff repair. And I'm showing the video right now of a rotator cuff repair surgery. You can see on my LA Shoulder Instagram page. This was on my profile, but you can see that through one of my posts. And this is what those sutures look like and what the outcome looks like at 3 months for this gentleman. So he was doing really well, and then he progressed really well. And some arthroscopy. I was talking about arthroscopy earlier. This right here is the setup for it. So that's this one right here. You can see the video and what those small incisions look like. And then the video actually on the screen is then showing what I'm looking at on the screen. You can see this is my attention. I'm here on the right. That's my PA over on the left. But you can see I'm managing the green, which is the Arthrex implant. And then the left is the camera. And then this is a case where I'm basically doing a repair. So I was getting videos like this during cases where I could show people what these things are, basically what this is. And that way you can kind of understand it. But basically what arthroscopy and what this does to develop, what you guys do is having those relationships with surgeons where you have to come in to these situations and be able to teach them. So obviously you've developed that over time and through personal relationships. But is there a way that you'll, like, when you're, how do you learn these specifications for things? You really, if I ask you a number, it's a 4.75 millimeter biocomposite swivel lock. You know, it's one of these things where you're just like, boom. Yeah. Even with new stuff, you know, all the specs behind it and the measurements. How do you do all that? Do you just look at diagrams, or do you make notes for yourself, or do you read material?
It's repetition. I mean,
How long does it take you? Like a day?
it depends on what you're learning, right?
Yeah, a new product, I mean.
It depends on what it is. I mean,
How complicated it is,
are
or
you
if it's a
talking
whole new
about just
process.
the length of something?
Yeah, so if it's a new anchor, it's something, a different change in size, it's probably not that big of a deal. There's not a whole lot to learn.
Yeah, conceptually, if it's new, then
Right.
it takes longer because you have to learn the concept. But if it's just memorizing a length or a diameter, I mean, I can reference a technique out online in surgery. I mean, if you're not going to look at me in surgery if you say, hey, how wide is this, and I'm going to say, give me 1 second, pull up something and say, that's this, you're going to say thank you. You're not going to be like, why didn't you know that? Like,
You know how to access the information, right?
well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on the website that everyone uses. So we have that information, and that's, our job is to get you that information, and that's where there's value in having someone in the room with you and making sure that you're getting what you need.
So I think there may be some people who are interested in the whole field of either surgery or medical education, or being a rep themselves. What is it like working with surgeons? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, there's lots of different personalities. It's like working with anything, right? I mean, surgeons are humans. You said it, right? You're human.
Is it variable or is it pretty consistent?
It's completely variable.
And I'm an orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
So have you worked with general surgeons or always orthopedics?
I've seen some general surgery, so yeah,
You have experience.
Everyone knows that general surgeons are significantly more fun than orthopedic surgeons. Like that's
by definition.
I think that's humans are humans, right? So in any industry, there's going to be different personalities. So
That's definitely true.
It-
There tends to be a lot of ego though in the surgical community, especially inside the OR, because you may, there's a lot of people that are intimidated from the OR. Even people that know me, for example, may feel that they aren't at the level of understanding of the implants that I require. I've heard of things like that. Do you know that kind of sentiment where somebody maybe doesn't feel prepared? Like as a rep
You can be,
with a particular surgeon, maybe, for example, and they feel scared.
I'm sure all reps
What
have
advice
felt
do you have for that?
unprepared at some time, because it's, like I said earlier, we're dealing with some of the smartest people that live on this earth. And so there's going to be questions.
Smartest and sometimes most egotistical people on the planet too,
You
right?
said that.
They sometimes go together.
There's going to be times where you don't know the answer, and
But they're really smart.
yeah.
Hopefully they're nice and they're not being mean to you on purpose.
sure.
Or they're just, what? I mean, what? How do you feel about that? Mean surgeons? Being nice, but you got to keep coming back, because sometimes people just have bad days. Even surgeons do.
Look, the goal is to create a relationship and to create value.
But so notoriously surgeons are mean to reps.
Do you think that?
I've seen it. I'm not saying all reps. You probably haven't. I think you're very competent, and so you probably have gone through this with a lot of. If somebody's being mean to you per se, I would imagine if they're going to continue to be mean to you in particular, they're probably just kind of a meanie. And if they're mean to you, hopefully they apologize. I've been mean to everybody. I hopefully will apologize. Generally I can get to it's ego. The ego gets inflated big time. And as a rep, you tend to have this relationship with surgeons where it may feel that it's a one-way relationship where the surgeon basically is dictating most things. And obviously there may even be more coming from your end in the relationship. I think that good surgeon rep relationships are pretty equal, and they may be variable in terms of where the kind of management is offered, because you have to learn my preferences too. And I think you and I had a lot more communication early on, and because I was figuring things out, you were helping me figure things out, and I listened to you. What was so fascinating about what I learned as a fellow at Rothman was I saw it, how great some of the reps were, and how obviously everywhere you work, everybody's different, and some people are mediocre and some people aren't so great, and some people come and go. But it was fascinating to see what a difference a good rep during the case could make. Somebody who was with that surgeon a lot and realized what he was talking about and could offer suggestions that actually would improve the case. And I saw that with some people in fellowship. Guy named Mike who worked for Tournier. It was amazing, Tournier Mike. And Mark Davidson, you were the first guy who taught me that when I started practice. And it's one of those things where you don't know who you can trust, especially when you're in a bad situation. The case is going, it's a complex case, and especially during arthroscopy, those have been some of the most trying cases that I've had, because when it's open, I can look, I can fix things, and maybe it may take time, but with arthroscopy, you can't have a timer on. You can't let things go more than typically around, ideally 2 hours, but 3 hours max, really. 4 hours sometimes is really pushing it. And it can be really, really difficult. And you've helped me through a lot of situations through watching and through seeing those screens. Like I showed you that video, what I was looking at, you were looking at, what kind of case I'm doing just by watching that. So we're looking at the same thing. Chip Rout from Houston, he's an orthopedic trauma guy, says, I can't remember his exact quote, but he says, basically, are we looking at the same thing? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because if I'm seeing this, and he does pelvic fractures, and I'm seeing this type of line and fracture, and you're looking at it and you're not seeing that line, then we're seeing two totally different things. It's this concept of, I can't talk to a lot of these reps because they're not seeing what I'm seeing. They're not looking at the screen. They're not understanding the procedure, to the extent that I need to know that people are following along, and they don't need to be making the next step. Hey, this is what he's going to do next all the time. Because sometimes even I don't know until I look at some things. But if you're paying attention and you care as a rep, you can learn so much from the surgeon just by watching the case and paying attention. But those are the types of interactions where then I can get help from you, because you are watching me avoid potential issues because you've seen it before with other people. I'm going to tangle that suture. Getting things crossed up can be a major issue. And it can be so simple of an avoidance of, hey, that you're pulling on the wrong suture. And if I pull on that suture and I just say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and I just pull hard, it might pull out where I have to put in a whole new anchor, might delay the case. I might not be able to get the fixation that I had a plan to get fixation for if I screw up. And sometimes little things like that happen. So, little things like that can actually make a big difference, just grabbing the right suture. And so if there's people that can't even tell me what left versus right is and up and down, there's some people that I feel just can't understand arthroscopy to a certain extent. They don't know what's going on, so they're waiting for direction, from me. So that, I think, is what really separates with arthroscopic competent arthroscopic surgery reps that are competent basically within sports, where they are able to, they have to know the anatomy. We have to be looking at the same thing on the screen to a certain extent. You got to know if you're in the joint, not in the joint. Sometimes I'll ask very basic questions like that just to see who is looking at what I'm looking at. And then that way, you know what you're looking at, and then you can compare results within different surgeons, because you hop back and forth with different people. You don't just work with me. right? So you can offer your experience
Yeah.
through suggestion.
All of that is true. I think,
It's definitely true
the
because you helped me. I
I
know
think
it's true.
Another important thing to recognize there is, those times are few and far between, right? Like the majority of time that you're doing things, you're not really needing assistance or help, right? You're
Probably don't need it, right? I can figure it out.
No, like
But you
don't
can
need
make it
right?
better.
But it's the challenging times where something's not going right, because not everything goes right in surgery. Everyone, if you don't know that, you should know that not every surgery goes perfect, and that's when the value is really felt by your rep, is when things aren't going well. Are they prepared
What do you have to offer
to help you out? And sometimes that's just as simple as communicating, hey, I'm not sure what's going on. Let me know what you need and I'll tell you what options I have. Or I've never seen this before, so you got to communicate with me what you need, and not being afraid to say, I don't know what the heck you're doing. I don't know what that is.
Sure.
But here's what I have.
And also, don't be that guy that's asking every 5 minutes. I know people like that.
What are you
It's
doing?
like,
What is
hey,
that?
doc. Oh, hey, what is, so what are you going to do next? What is that over there? It makes me lose my focus. It sounds crazy. I have a rule that I had to make because people were singing to songs, and then I was starting to have these things where I'm getting distracted, and I realized I was getting distracted. I can't have people singing to songs in my rooms. And I like loud music, so that's pretty much why I play.
That's probably why
play
you like
house
me in
music.
your room, because I don't sing.
You don't sing, but also, well, your voice is terrible, but it's a good radio voice. It's delicious. It's sexy and delicious. I think.
I don't think anyone's ever.
It's the
said
mandala. Was that the mandala?
That. No, don't
I think it was a mandala.
edit that part out.
Edit that out. No, I'm just saying the quality of your voice is it's good. It's good for radio, but you also have a face for TV, so works out.
It's an interesting time, like when you get into those situations, that's when you really can provide a lot of value. And that's all. I mean, to kind of go back to what you asked earlier about when doctors are operating and they're not in the best mood. I mean, we have to realize the situation that we're in, right? We're in surgery at the most stressful part of someone's job.
And you don't know what's in my head.
I have no idea what's in your head, right? And all I'm doing is looking at the screen, and sometimes I can tell things aren't going well, or sometimes I can listen and I can tell if things aren't going well, or sometimes I can tell things are going great, and everything's situational, and being able to read the room and understand, all right, this is the mood, this is what can be said right now.
It's like a control center, or it's like a command center where somebody's got to direct what's happening.
You need to have a red light, green light system where when you're willing to talk and when you're not willing to talk, and just put it up so people know.
Yeah, you're pretty aware of that. You're pretty good at that. Some people, it's just it's too much, and it's like singing during the song. So I pretty much just listen to loud house music now to keep everybody on beat.
Yeah, yeah. Tighten down that lateral row.
What's my DJ name?
DJ Full Thickness.
DJ Full Thickness,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, Full Thickness rotator cuff
For
repair.
full thickness repairs, double row. DJ Full Thickness.
Thickness.
Brought to you by LA Shoulder Studios. That's what that's what the studios is. That's not what I'm calling it. That's what it's called. LA Shoulder Studios. Yeah. We're on LA Shoulder Podcast. Brought to you by the LA Shoulder Studios. LA Shoulder Podcast. I was thinking about calling it a radio show for the old folks, so they could listen to a podcast, but they see radio shows. So they're like, it is a radio show. That makes sense to me. I'm going to click on it.
Yeah, you probably have a
LA Shoulder
smaller
Podcast
demographic
show.
of people that are wanting to click on that.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'll just have links that say, for listening on the radio, click this podcast link. Might work.
Just confuse people.
So do you still work out?
Started to work out a little bit.
What do you do?
I started.
You're looking good, man.
I started lifting
You
some
look
weights
fit.
recently.
Yeah. Weights?
Yeah.
Usually you weren't a lifter. You were a golf guy who didn't lift.
I stopped lifting weights. Stopped lifting weights for a long time, but recently, I felt like I was losing too much muscle, so I wanted to
How old are you?
start exercising and putting on a little bit more weight.
You're not in your 40s yet, right?
No, not yet. I'm 37.
It starts happening. Yeah, I'm 38. It starts happening.
Yeah.
So you got the weights help. And you only have so much time.
Well, I used to work out because I wanted to look good, and I thought that being strong looked good. Now I
It does. I think.
yeah.
And being strong is functionally strong. I think is probably a better way to live too.
Yeah, I think
Has benefits.
Yeah,
Avoidance of injury.
Longevity. Here we are again.
Sure.
Now I'm almost doing it because it's a way to kind of
More?
I'm good. It's a way to clear your mind and be able to have time alone and be able to process and think think through things and have that space. So it's kind of for a different reason now.
We all need our quiet time.
Quiet time,
Yeah.
especially
That's
us,
great.
introvert, extrovert.
You work out in the gym, or do you have your own space
I go to the gym.
with other people?
Yeah, but I don't.
You say, "Hey, what's up, Mike?
Yeah, I don't talk. I
Biceps are looking good, man.
got-
You want to hit them with me today?"
headphones. Don't
Yeah.
talk to people.
Which
do my
way is the
own
beach?
thing. If someone's on a machine, I'll change my workout.
Hey, excuse me, ma'am, miss, when are you going to be off that machine?
No, it's too much.
I do the hip adductor, the one that comes in and out. That's what I start with. I have to start with it. I can't start my workout until I start that one.
I mean, you have to loosen the hips.
How much
up.
time? I'll wait. Go ahead.
Yeah. So
Is that you?
no, I don't. I typically don't leave that machine. That's like I stay there the whole time. So but I'm trying to work on my golf game. So it's all about the hips.
Oh, so you still are working on golf?
Yeah.
It's always golf. See, it's golf centric. It's whatever you love. So you love golf.
It's a passion, right?
Yeah.
So
How often do you play golf?
not nearly as much as I'd like.
Once a week? Twice a week?
No, not that much.
How often do you swing a club?
I go in spurts where I won't play golf for 3-4 weeks, and then I'll try and play like 3 times in a week, just because it takes a couple of times to.
You would play a game, or do you go to the range? What is that? If 3 times a week means what to you?
Like I'll go to the range, and then I'll try and play on the weekend, like on Saturday, Sunday.
So you only play a game on the weekends, not during the week, or if something comes up, the surgeon needs to be.
It's tough
entertained,
during the
maybe.
week. Our schedules don't really permit us to block time off. That's not how it works.
Why do people say that surgeons go golfing during the week? I mean, it might be true, but
Well,
you
you
got to
as
have
a-
your day. You have
you-
one day where you're like, I'm only going to be here until noon, and we are golfing.
Well, you as a surgeon have the ability to control your own schedule.
That is definitely true, and it's been true the whole time. And I just learned that I think 2 weeks ago.
So me as a rep, I don't have that same ability because I have to play.
Because I was just trying to get busy the whole time.
I have
was
to
like,
plan my
yes,
day
yes.
around you and every other surgeon, right? So if there's a day where every surgeon's not working, then that's the day that I'm not working.
You are dependent. You're on doing podcasts, so your schedule to some extent is dependent on my schedule. If you're covering me directly,
Yeah, not somewhat. It completely is.
completely,
Yeah.
let
So-
you know when I'm out of town.
Yeah, and when you're out of town, other people aren't. So yeah, I mean, there's times.
Right, so
where-
you might still have to be here, but if you're gone, I might be upset if I'm here.
Yeah. So
But you do cool
is
stuff.
Is that fair?
How many yachts
Is
have
that
you?
fair?
It may not be, but this is the one-way relationship I was talking about. Yeah, how many yachts have you been on? Because I know it's more than me.
What do you consider a yacht?
I have a number.
What do you consider a yacht?
What do you consider a yacht? Because I have a number in my mind.
A yacht.
I want to know what number you consider as in terms of how many yachts you've been on in
I've
your
been on
life, out to
sailboats.
sea, not taking a tour of them.
I've been on sailboats, small sailboats.
Yacht,
No, not yacht.
like how many people? 10?
No, like 6, 8.
That's like sailing.
Sailing. Yeah.
Sailing.
Yeah. Not
Yacht.
yachts.
You didn't go to Yacht Week?
No, I've never done yacht week.
You didn't go to Yacht Week?
That would be a good time.
We should go to Yacht Week. Do you have a yacht?
Should we do yacht week?
Do you have a boat? What are the requirements?
I think all you have
Let's
to do
look it
is
up.
sign up and pay money.
I'm gonna look it up.
You get a captain. You go to Croatia, hang out for a week.
Let's find it.
Yacht week's not really.
Is it cool though?
It's not really yachts. It's
Is there still Yacht Week?
It's a bunch of boats that are all like smaller sailboats, and they all go in one big
Oh, hold on.
group of boats that
Oh,
all
mess
travel
up.
together and party together.
So I don't want to reach too far. What are the requirements for Yacht Week?
Credit card, date of birth.
Let's see what ChatGPT says. Requirements for Yacht Week depend on the location of the event, type of yacht, and experience level of the participants. However, there are general requirements. Okay, so we do have one. So you got to be 21 and up.
Yep, that's
Some
date of
routes
birth.
may allow 18 and older, but this depends if your mommy's with you. Booking a yacht, you can book as a full yacht. So you can do it. So you're 21. It costs, is that a lot?
I think it's a lot.
Mark says this
what do
is
you
a
think?
lot. I think it's a lot for Yacht Week. $1,000 to $3,500 per person. And that's for the whole trip. For the week, I would imagine. But they do take Visa, it looks like.
No,
And
if they take credit card, then
yeah,
you
put it
should,
on the card.
you should
bro.
get that thing.
Let's go. We should go. And then we can do the podcast out there and do it on a yacht.
If you want to pay for it, I'll go.
Do you have to have a yacht? Let's see.
No, you don't.
Do you need to own a yacht to participate in the VIP? Because we have to do VIP, right? In the VIP, you don't have to add a question mark, but I think it's nice to be at least respectful to the AI. I don't want to piss them off. It says, no, you do not need to own a yacht to participate in the Yacht Week VIP experience. So we can do VIP, and you don't have a yacht. I don't have a yacht. But maybe we could be there on Yacht Week. Do they accept babies? Let's see. It said 21. What if you have a baby? Because I need to bring my baby. What if you need to bring a baby and they like water? Let's see what this is. Do you use this? Use ChatGPT?
I do.
It changed my life. I can just get information now that I want to know. But then I start making all these weird, crazy, silly searches. It says babies at Yacht Week is highly unconventional, as it may be primarily a party. Oh, it is a party. So it's like a party, right?
A party.
Oh, so you're not going to bring babies to the party.
No, it's a party. It's a bunch of, it's a group of boats that travel around with captains, and you just enjoy the island life.
Is there music?
I'm sure there is.
You don't know though, because you've never been there.
I'm sure there's music.
Is there music like cover bands?
Oh, well,
they have cover bands.
Well, everyone
there?
stays on the boat.
Or is it DJs? Or is you provide your own music?
So it's a bunch of, Yacht Week is a bunch of sailboats, right? So
I don't know. I'm going to ask, what is Yacht Week? Let's ask, is there music at Yacht Week? And then I'm going to ask, what is Yacht Week? It says, yes, music is a huge part of Yacht Week, part of the experience. It's known for daytime DJ sets, raft parties. That sounds awesome. And so maybe you meet up on a raft in the middle of all the yachts and then listen to
tie up all your
DJs.
dinghies.
You know who I was listening to is Nora and Pure. She did a show on a yacht. So here, let me show that one.
I like Nora and Pure.
She's amazing. I think she makes all of her own music too. She's a producer. She does music production. So she works in a studio and makes her own music, house music. So that's her own stuff. It's not like she's just remixing people's music and making it sound good.
She's great.
She's like Avicii. Show Nora. Oh wait, let's find out what. No, yeah, we got a good sense of what Yacht Week is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Show Nora and Pure link. So this I'm using this now, and it'll just give me the link on YouTube.
You can do anything on here now.
It's amazing.
It's only going to get better.
Or what I did learn though is if there's a direct link that you want to get to, it's actually better just to go to that channel. So I'll just go on YouTube, Nora and Pure. It was 2024. No, this one was the yacht video. Did you see this one? She's swimming with a shark. All right, I'm gonna show the start. Super cool. I don't know, she might get mad if I can show it, but it's super cool. Nora, I love you. My girlfriend Cassandra loves you. And if you ever want to be on the LA Shoulder podcast, please come on my podcast in Calabasas. See, she likes dolphins, and she looks like a model. And she apparently is not afraid of sharks, which is impressive because I think sharks are terrifying.
I mean, that's impressive to free dive at that level right there.
This is her. And then she goes up on the boat. She dodges the shark first. There's a shark. He has been through battle, it looks. He has like a dagger that's been broken off in his jaw, and he's going strong. And she's hanging out, trying to find her boat.
Doesn't look deep there.
To do her set. She was deep. She was swimming with sharks.
Well, that's deep. That's different places.
She just found.
That's got to be different places.
But it's what you believe, and I believe she's not afraid of sharks. Because she put a video. There's a shark. There's me. No problem. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't put a shark in my video, even if it's cool. But this music's super cool.
I'd like to go there.
I started watching this and I was...
What do you think this is?
I just wanted to be part of all of this, except for the shark.
Where do you think that is?
I'm not... It's Bahamas. I think... Yeah, it's Bahamas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this video went viral.
The Abacos?
I'm not sure exactly, but it went viral and has 18 million views on YouTube. 18 million and one now.
See, that's a yacht. I've never been on a boat that size.
That's a fishing yacht, right? Sport fishing yacht.
That's got to be 80,
I've been on a boat
80
that
feet.
big, bigger maybe. I've been on a sport fishing.
I've been on a cruise.
But
I
look,
guess
you
that
can have a
counts.
DJ set, swim with sharks, get away from them, and then do a set on a boat. Apparently with a guy driving the boat, I hope, and nobody listening.
This is where she records her music.
She's just recording.
Yeah.
She wanted a good setting for recording. But she just goes input. So this is a direct line from her board, I'm sure, into the recording software. So it's not picking up all the waves and the sharks killing each other out there.
Although that would make for some pretty good background beats.
Maybe she was getting some good footage.
Shark beats.
I've been watching a lot of Baby Shark lately, actually.
Yeah, a lot more's coming.
It should. There's a movie coming out.
When are you gonna?
Are you gonna watch it?
When are you gonna do Lion King for the first time?
I tried to watch it on my little. I'm sorry, I did watch it, and it was
The new one?
something that. Well, I got to support one of the guys. He's one of my patients actually is in that movie as one of the voices. So I can't discourage from watching. Watch Lion King, folks. Although this podcast is not brought to you by Lion King. No, I mean it wasn't for me. I was the realistic animation with it. Just I can't get lost in it. Like I get lost in your eyes, Mark. But for that, it was Baby Shark, which I'm highly interested in, mostly from a production value and from a melody, audio, soundtrack value. The shark looks terrifying to me, and I am so scared of sharks by looking at it. I'm scared watching the show, but I think it's a little bit of fear inside of me that stimulates
But you
something
you
that
do
makes me
some
want to
surfing,
watch
don't
it.
you?
Yeah, I don't see sharks in the water.
But they're there.
I'd look for waves, not
You
sharks.
know they're there.
I don't think about them.
Okay.
Shut it out. Cut it off.
Mind over matter.
Did you watch Dogman? It's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
I've never heard of it.
It's about a dog and a man that become a dog man.
I mean, appropriately named, I guess.
Have you seen it? All right, so this is what we're going to do at Yacht Week. And then when we're at Yacht Week, when we're bored, on the way out there on the plane, we're going to watch Dogman. So now I'm going to show you Dogman. He is a dog man. And this is a book that my kids read. You didn't see this?
No.
Official trailer? Watch this.
My nieces and nephews are all under 3.
This is actually this movie changed my life.
When the streets are
Watching
held
this
hostage,
was this is going to be something that they put in the time portal when the aliens come down and they say what were movies about and like at different aspects of the century. And this is going to be one at this new quarter of our 2025 futuristic century. They're going to say, wow, dogs and men were one at some point.
and
Through
fight
Dogman.
as
Can you
one.
hear that over your headphones?
We sew the dog's
you can't
head
hear it.
onto the man's body.
Yeah, look at
Great
so he gets injured and
Surgery.
the nurse and the doctor are like, we should make him into one person because the guy was going to die. He had a severe head injury and the dog had no body. So it might actually work if you could. They reconnected a head, an actual human head, to a person who recently died, and they matched them, and they actually lived for a certain amount of time. I don't know if they didn't have any usable function, but somebody had like a head and they were basically dead, but their body worked. So this was, I don't know if it was based on a true story, but that did happen in Italy, and they reconstructed this guy's head. I think he ended up dying very quickly, but it was one of those things to show you can do it. So in this, the dog, his cognition, his brain is working, but he had no body. So he uses this guy's body because they reconnected him, but he's still a dog. So he can't talk, but he like growls at people. And he's a detective because he used to work for this cop. And so he's still trying to solve all these like mysteries. This evil cat is causing all these problems named Petey. And apparently you can like the bad guy and kind of like the good guy who can't even talk because he's a dog. And man, this movie is highly worth seeing, even if you don't have kids.
Okay.
It was such a cool movie. That's a trailer.
All right, I'll put it on the list.
It's pretty good. It's DreamWorks, but I haven't seen any good movies lately, until Dogman. There you go.
Yeah, I watched very few movies.
You just don't watch
I'm
movies.
not a big movie buff.
You just watch Arthrex videos.
Yeah, Arthrex videos.
What's the last movie you saw? You watch Netflix?
Yeah, I mean, I have Netflix.
You don't watch it though. Your girlfriend watches it.
I watch Wife.
Wife.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
Wife. Yeah.
She watches Netflix, right? Netflix is in chills with you. She still does that with you.
We have different streaming platforms.
You watch stuff on your own. You don't watch stuff together.
Yeah, we watch stuff. We put things on. It's more background than anything. We don't
So you guys don't sit down and watch movies together?
very rarely.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's your quality time like? How do you get quality time?
We play golf together.
You do play
Yeah,
golf?
she plays golf.
Oh, that's great.
We've actually been recently been reading together. Like
You guys
we're
read the
reading
same book?
Same book.
Or
Not
she
to
reads
each
a
other.
page and then you read a page?
She reads at twice the
read-
speed of me, so she gives me a head start. I get about halfway through, and then the goal is to see how quickly she can catch up.
So like parallel reading where you guys start a book at the same time. And then how long does it take her to finish a book?
Half the time as me.
But what is that time frame?
Depends on the book.
What's the fastest and what's the shortest? Or fastest and longest you guys have done?
If you put a smut novel in front of her, she'll finish that by tomorrow.
That's their porn, man. Girls get their porn through novels. Their porn novels.
She's woken me up in the night and she's reading, and I
In most cases.
and it's 2 a.m. and I turn over and she's sitting there reading, and I have to take her book, hide it,
Give me that book.
and say,
What does he look like? How long is his
go to
hair?
bed. Explain the scene.
Am I not
What's
enough for
going on?
you? Is that
What's
why you
going
started
on?
working out again? Because the
Yeah.
guys in the stories were too manly?
Yeah, exactly.
They were wielding big axes and stuff.
Yeah, the fantasy is just too strong.
So how long would it take? How many books have you gotten through together?
We've only done a
Even
few.
if it's books on tape or
We've only done a
so
few.
you can talk about it.
We're
and stuff.
currently reading one, Splendid in a Vial. It's a Churchill book.
When he wrote it
He didn't write it.
It was a book
It's about him.
about him.
Yeah.
Is it a bio?
Not really.
How did they tell the? How did they tell it? Like from what perspective is the writer telling the story?
It's just told based, just telling the story of kind of how he came to become prime minister, and then how he was handling the different situations with Germany and France, leading up to the war, and how he's getting America involved. So
He was the one that had a role in getting America involved, right?
Yeah.
A pretty major role.
a pretty major role.
Yeah, not the only role, but a
No,
major role.
but a major role is, his insight and his ability to strategically engage and engage an ally and make them aware of the necessity that they need help.
So, do you guys watch specials on Churchill?
No, this is just
You don't, because you don't watch it together. You just read books.
just a book.
And so, are you through with that one, or are you right in the middle?
No, I'm
of
in the
it?
middle of it. I would say I'm about a third of the way through.
And how thick is it? Is it this thick?
Yeah,
This big?
it's about that.
That's how thick it is.
It's about that big.
Is it? I mean, is it big books? Like it's 400 pages, 600, something like that.
I'm reading it on Kindle.
But you're reading the words, right?
Yeah.
I think that's so important, man, is to still read books, listen to audiobooks, but reading, actually looking at the words trains your brain in a different way than just listening to it.
I can't listen to audiobooks.
You
I
don't at
lose
all.
Train of thought.
You can't. Do you listen to podcasts?
I don't like auditory learning.
It's
I'm
not
a visual learner. So if I'm not looking at it, then I lose train of thought. You can put on a podcast and it's the only thing I'm doing is listening to the podcast. And 5 minutes later, I'll be thinking about something completely different.
You don't lock in.
Don't
You
lock in.
with
It doesn't engage my interest. It's hard. It's very hard for me to hear something and be, all right, let's learn that way.
You end up thinking of other things, or maybe your mind starts wandering and
Completely wanders in other things. I'll be listening to your podcast and I'll be thinking about something like surfing.
Sure. And I think we all do that with long things. Your attention is known through studying neurology and neurosciences. It only lasts for 45 minutes to an hour. Kids last for like 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And as adults, most people are about an hour of solid attention through focused attention if you really want to. But your mind will wander at some point.
Yeah, and different
can't
people's minds
keep
wander
attention
at different
for
times.
longer.
And for me, if you put something visual, it's not going to wander nearly as easily. Or you can put if you put a hard copy book in front of me and I'm reading pages,
You can get
I'll
lost
stay
in it.
engaged.
Yeah.
But if
It has to be the right
if
setting,
you put
though.
that audiobook on, I won't make it 5 minutes.
Maybe no interruptions with reading.
It's not that. Even no interruptions.
You can lock in and stuff can be going on. You just read.
Yeah. I can still be distracted, but auditory is not my learning language.
Have you always read like that? Reading, getting through novels and just being a reader, or has that been something you've done more recently?
Much. I don't.
You read every week.
Yeah, I read
Regularly.
every day, right?
Every day.
But-
that's reading more than A lot of people. Some people don't read
I read
books.
street signs and
I have to read books, but I get a lot of my reading through things that I want to look up, say through literature, but even books. I'm reading X-Men actually right now. X-Men comics, the original one is really cool. So that's my pleasure reading, is looking at comic books actually and reading all the captions. So that's why I think reading, even if you're getting some kind of visual stimulation, but reading words, I let my kids read whatever they want, but they have to read every day for 15 minutes.
that's good.
Why should they do it, but I stopped doing it?
Well, you do it indirectly.
Directly, but also I've broken it down to things I have to read, things I should read, and then things that I want to read. And reading, but I know in all regards, reading is important. Now with all this technology, there's so many ways you can outsource learning, and that's why I asked you about learning earlier with MedEd, where that's going. It's kind of a constant process of education, of educating yourself on products, but also you're learning how to learn new stuff, even new realms of understanding of this new information like AI. What is AI? People kind of all understand that it's these things you can type into or talk to that interact with you now. But even a few years ago, there was no even mention, like most people didn't even understand what that concept was. So now if you kind of keep this open mind to new things and learning, I should pay attention to this, and then focusing on it, you can use things like ChatGPT and recognize a really good tool when it's out there. And you can see it as a tool, and maybe something that for myself, I've started outsourcing a lot of my old ways of learning information. And I still learn updates through news sources and through X or Instagram. And even now ChatGPT allows you to get up-to-date searching and scourging of the internet. But there's new things on here now that, so if, for example, I did I was interested in sex after shoulder surgery. So I wanted to know when is it safe to get back to physical function, and I want to know when is it safe to get back to things like sexual intercourse, because my patients ask me that, or they may want to know it, and they'll definitely ask me, and you can make thoughts about, okay, maybe after a certain amount of time they can do this, so maybe they could have sex. But it's always better if there's something within the literature that you can look at. And if you know how to input what you want to find in these resources now with these GPT programs, this is a new one. Check this out. It says deep research. So you click deep research down here, and whatever your query is, you search right here. So this is one that I wanted to know, what are the actual studies? And you can look for studies. You can look for international studies. You can look for basically like what's out there on the internet, mayoclinic.com, or things that are basically open access that are not studies, but they're maybe open recommendations from certain institutions. It compiles that, and then it'll show you I said, is this a relevant list? It says this a relevant list. So I said, let me find it. I said, is this a comprehensive list? And it says, no, we're going to give you a comprehensive list. So then it finds every single study and says, okay, from this time to this time, this is what we found. These are the ones that are published. These are the resources. You can find the papers here. So for example, this one is shoulder elbow surgery 2020. Improvements in sexual function following arthroscopic rotator cuff repair, JSES 2020. Is that a journal that I use on a regular basis, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah, clearly you know that journal, because that's our main journal for getting orthopedic surgery knowledge communicated with research. So this study found pre-surgery limitations. 65% of patients reported their shoulder problem negatively impacted the quality of life or frequency of sexual activity before surgery. That's a lot. So if your shoulder is not functioning well, you probably are going to, you're going to avoid sex. And then if you're doing that, that is going to have some kind of consequence in your life. And, maybe that's something that affects people differently. And I'm sure it does. Post-surgery improvements after rotator cuff repair, 79% found it easier to engage in sex, with 35% specifically attributing improvement in pain relief. Obviously, they mean their shoulder. And that way, by 6 weeks post-op, 72% had resumed sexual activity. So 72%, almost 3/4, had resumed. So this was basically a study that the surgeons were surveying patients. So they asked them, what are you already doing? Are you having sex or you're not having sex? And those numbers, sometimes they are variable, but if it's more than 50-50, they do statistics and they show the
have rotator cuff
P is less than
surgery and you'll have more
0.001.
sex.
Well, if you are not having sex because your shoulder hurts, have sex and it will get better.
have surgery.
But if you're having bad sex before, it may not have anything to do with your shoulder, but
Well, this
it
isn't
might.
this
It might
isn't
have
talking
something to do
about
with your shoulder.
This isn't talking about the quality.
Get
of sex.
shoulder surgery and have better sex. That's what it's showing. That's what I get. That's my conclusion. So, and then, these are multiple studies here, and these are significant studies. So look what we just learned right now. I had an idea.
What do you think about?
And I found it right here.
AI in terms of future uses in your type of surgery.
Dude, the thing is, it's such a powerful tool, but right now it's a tool that is interacted with, that if you don't interact with, it doesn't help you at all. It's like a hammer. If you're a carpenter and you can't find your hammer, you have a bunch of nails to nail, you can find a different way to put the nails in. So you can say, I can't find my hammer, so I'm just going to not put any nails in. It's not going to work. That's just a tool. So it's a conduit for whatever you want it to be. What's on the internet is not infinite. It's actually quantifiable in terms of data, because the internet is a connection of servers that have data storage. And all data that is sent back and forth on the internet is basically code. It's computer code. So to some extent, it's quantifiable from a computer programming perspective, where now you have this program that's based on input through that code. It's called a large language model. So it's called Chat GPT, because the GPT is the processing unit that has all the code built into it that can process those things with the algorithms. And algorithms are basically complex code that are based on code is code. So it's just basically input and command. And it could be, this line and these letters represents alphanumeric representation. So it's all based on the keyboard. So it's all input. So that's how then it makes a representation of what you're inputting on the keyboard on the digital screen. So that's what the code is. And that's all sent through electricity. So without electricity, none of this means anything, because it's impossible to do it. As far as I know, I think you must have electricity and a current, because it's all based on that. So once you have electricity, that can then power the whole system, and then it gives you this graphic representation on the screen, which we know is like a PC or now like a Mac. And what those processing units are, they're based on totally different processing systems in terms of code, PCs versus Mac. So you have these applications that can run on either systems, because now you've reached this point where that code has like bridging between the two, because we know you can either use a PC or a Mac, so it really doesn't matter. It's a computer. So if you have these large language models that you can engage with as somebody that can understand them, you maybe have a very large knowledge of one certain thing. And so you can use this tool. Say if you're a PhD, for example, in astrophysics, you can use it as a tool and utilize your knowledge to then start searching for things that will either save you time or give you more reliable information, or being able to come up with write things down quicker or start automating things. It's basically limitless. And all right, so we're back. Sorry, you got disconnected.
You were telling me about
now.
research
with
AI.
And AI. So what I found was I started outsourcing what I was doing, making tables, reading papers, where I was trying to take what they had in the paper and take it out and reformat it and put it into a table that I could then use for research. Because in research, we have to build upon shoulders of giants. As we know, we have to base a lot of our work off of research that's been done. So a literature review you start with an idea, but then the next step generally is a literature review. Let's see what's already published on that idea. If you have a good idea, hey, are rotator cuff repairs better if you also do a biceps tenodesis or not? What are the outcomes? What are the studies? It's probably already been done. So then you can assess that, look at the relevance, and this will outsource a lot of that as far as literature review. So you can, what I just showed you is an example of that right there with the sexual activity after shoulder surgery. So I already know now kind of what the summary of the literature shows and what's out there. Maybe there's some gaps in there that I could study myself as an academic surgeon. So that's helped me right there, just outsource my amount of work that normally I would have to go through, going online, doing a literature myself or search myself, looking at the papers, reading the papers. I didn't read these papers, so I'm assuming this is accurate, which has shown it does have accuracy because has these resources that you can click on directly. It shows you this is the source.
But you'll want to check that just to be certain, right?
Of course, and it's text-based. So these are things, if I'm making any actual decisions on, then I'm clarifying with the initial source. That's why I hold journal clubs with the residents, and we'll go through the papers in more detail. But these are kind of more guidelines, what's out there. And so it'll help me make some decisions. And so I know. So then if I do need to read them in more detail, I have them, and we can read them in more detail, maybe at like a journal club level. And so when you have this type of ability, I saw that as such a powerful tool, just that I was outsourcing things that might have taken me a week if I could get it done and come back to it without getting frustrated sometimes. But, these things just take time and patience. So if you can get to the next point by outsourcing a lot of things that may have improved, maybe now improving efficiency, that opened me up to say, hey, if I have a good idea, let's search for it. Okay, good. There's a gap here. Let's move on. So it's really been speeding up my ability to do research. So how is AI going to interact with that? I mean, the AI systems now are really based on user input. So the other thing I found was the more you interact with the system, it will remember your preferences. And then, so for example, I say I'm an orthopedic academic shoulder surgeon. It doesn't really matter where I practice for the stuff that I'm looking for. So I'll say I have an interest in rotator cuff repair surgery, biomechanical things or biomechanical studies, and it'll remember all of that. So then the next time I search, I just search, hey, I want to search for the outcomes on rotator cuff for my new study. And it already knows
use
that.
the same channel on the search, right?
You don't have to, it remembers it. And you can erase all those memories if you want to.
So because
you can say, change my
inputted it
memory
under your login, it now knows.
It's all through your login.
So now you can research incredibly faster.
Yeah, at an incredibly faster rate.
Yeah. And so you're able to get to things and get through things significantly quicker, so you can make advancements and really spend more time doing things that you really want to do, which are research, and that's a big part of what you like to do. And so you can basically get to that and determine if there's something specific that you want to research, whether it's been done before by someone else, or if there's an avenue there that maybe it's worth your time.
It improved my process for learning rapidly, exactly, and getting to research studies that I either find viable projects, or, for example, looking at this, there's studies done maybe on this. Maybe I say I don't want to study this, and I don't want to waste my time. It's already kind of established.
So what'd you do
It's helped me
before?
both ways.
So let's just make something up. Like, all right, I want to know what I want to know how the outcomes of a biceps tenodesis high in the groove, how that compares to a subpec tenodesis, and I want to know if someone studied it specifically with this type of access point or incision or whatever it may be. How would you look that up in the past? If it's been studied before.
Comparing results. How I would look it up in the past, I'd have to do a search with those keywords, usually through PubMed. Before this, I would use PubMed, which is a referencing a site. I think it's through Medline, or it's related to Medline. Medline's an additional resource, but basically it's the peer-reviewed library for peer-reviewed scientific papers that doctors and scientists use.
How long would it take you to look that up to see if
I had to get good at it as a resident, and residents need to be able to find journal articles which are published in different journals, and typically those are accessible, and there's a certain amount of papers that have been published over time since the publishing dates, probably the 20s, but still they're printed out and we read them as journals, and they're all online and they're updated. And this is what academic surgeons and researchers do, is when we say peer-reviewed literature, it depends on the journal, but it really means your peers who are practicing similar surgery as you do would be capable of reviewing that as a critical reviewer. So I'm a reviewer for JBJS, for JSES, and I am a critical reviewer where I try to break them down, because the scientific rigor, the better the scientific rigor of that study gets closer to cutting away the stuff that is untrue and revealing the truth of what's going on. And that's what I hope to do through research. It's hard to do from the start. You just are learning, how to draw things out of pipettes and how to talk to patients and record things. But later on, systems. You kind of understand the whole system of what you're trying to accomplish.
Here's a question for ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
What What shoulder arthroscopy techniques have not been studied yet thoroughly, or however you want to basically ask it for the gaps in the literature?
Are yet to be studied?
Yeah, what are the gaps in the shoulder arthroscopy literature that could be studied right now?
That could,
Let's see what it comes back with.
should I say that could improve, or that could improve? It's better if you give it more, but I could just
Give it more, whatever you want to add to that.
techniques let's just say that. What shoulder arthroscopy techniques are yet to be studied in terms of, I'll just say that. Let's see. Okay. Let's see what it says. This is more the open one without the deep search.
Yeah, this is open.
Yeah. So let's see what ChatGPT 4.0 says in 2025. The tool I use to conduct detailed research is currently unavailable. All right, let's check. Let me try a new search. What did you ask? Oh, yeah, let me copy and paste it. Yeah, I'll pass. I got to redo the search. Sorry, Mark. What? You didn't ask it very well anyways. Let's rephrase it.
It was bad.
Let's rephrase it.
Sure. Where are the gaps in research
Where are the gaps
for shoulder arthroscopy?
in research for
Orthopedic
Shoulder.
shoulder arthroscopy.
Yeah, we can just say that.
It knows your orthopedic.
It knows
right?
I'm a shoulder surgeon.
Yeah, it knows about that.
But it's still, if you say knee, I might have to say knee, or it would say arthroscopy in general. So there's several key gaps
Here we go.
in research for shoulder arthroscopy. All
How
right,
about
well, let's
re-tear
talk about
prevention?
them.
You want to talk about that?
See, this is what the robots do. They start putting us down right away. It's like there's several gaps in what you guys do. I would do this so much better. So it says spanning clinical outcomes, surgical techniques, blah, blah, blah. So biologics, rotator cuff repair says number one, PRP stem cells, collagen. That's not, okay, fine. Re-tear prevention strategies, more research is needed for double row. So it basically is saying what specific things need more research. So it is saying re-tear prevention
Yeah, these are
strategies.
interesting.
So this is good. This gets you thinking,
This gets you
right?
thinking.
It gets you thinking.
And then now
the
you
other
can,
thing is,
now you can deep dive into it, right?
let's say this, what in the future has not been studied that AI will prove to drastically change the healthcare paradigm?
Ooh. Do you have to use words like that to go futuristic?
Well, it depends. It might think I'm being very obtuse.
AI doctors? That's an interesting response.
You want to see what it says? AI is posed to drastically change the healthcare paradigm in ways that have not been fully studied or realized. Okay. Well, that sounds a little scary. While AI is already making strides in diagnostics, imaging, and workflow automation, true potential remains underexplored. I would agree with that. Decision making, predictive modeling. I think predictive modeling will be very, very important because that is based on actual data input. So all this data that we're inputting to the systems, all the outcomes will be dependent on how good that data is, because that's what the algorithms will access. And that'll say, hey, in these, it's all based on these studies, based on this study, that study, at least for now. And maybe in the future, collecting outcomes will be more standardized through registry. And then that type of data will be more accurate.
Yeah, that's
But
interesting.
it's totally dependent on the data that we give it as academic surgeons and as researchers who are non-surgeons. Okay, let's see, because this sounds fine. Okay, it may even prevent burnout for surgeons. That's interesting. How will AI help me? Should I say make money? No. How will help me as a shoulder surgeon within 5 years? Let's see what it says. AI will provide tangible, real-world benefits to your practice. That's a little overinflated, no?
That sounds real.
I'll take it. Enhancing efficiency, precision, and patient outcomes. Here's how. So they say planning and decision support. Okay, this is too long. Chad, just say this is too long. Give me bullet points. Key bullet points. Key bullets. Revise. Okay, AI enhanced pre-op planning, personalized surgical strategy based on imaging and patient history, predicts rotator cuff re-tear risk and optimal repair techniques. I think that would be cool. Hey, machine, tell me what this person's risk is. Maybe that'll alter how I treat them. Maybe more likely to use a graft or use BMAC.
Based off age, their history.
Whatever the AI tells me, it says it's doing it for a reason. Age, history, tear size. It'll look at the image quality. It'll compare it to what the radiologist says, and then it'll interpret all of this and give you one recommendation. That's kind of what we want, right? The machine to give us the recommendation. So maybe you want to know ahead of time how I can optimize that patient. So maybe give me a risk profile, 90% re-tear rate if you use a graft, but it'll drop to 80% risk of a re-tear. I'm sorry, say it's a 10% risk of a re-tear with a graft, but then it drops to maybe you're getting a higher re-tear rate if you don't use a graft. So it's like 5%. Is it worth the cost? Then it'll give you cost outcomes. It's whatever you tell it. So it's however you want to interact with these
then you
tools.
have to ask the question: should it matter? If you're saving 5%, should you do it?
Well, it should tell you if it matters, and then that's why you have to tell the machines from what type. So what are your
What
variables?
matters? What are my parameters?
You have to give it the parameters. Yeah. So AI optimized post-op recovery, maybe wearables can give us some more data, predict complications like stiffness. They say these things. I think it might be helpful, but I think a lot of times are really from the time of selection. So it's actually before. So it's making the right selection. And a lot of these are things that may help you after surgery. Patient engagement, definitely. And these are probably things that are out there in the literature already. Augmented reality, I think, is very cool. Do you guys have anything with that? Augmented reality with arthroplasty?
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
Yeah,
I don't
probably really
know.
cool stuff.
I don't really know.
Right, cool stuff. But I think these models really help me see what's out there, and then I can decide how engaged I want to get with it. But I think the AI systems, for me, it's shown to be a very, very powerful tool. And so these things are rapidly evolving. I can't predict the future. I feel like I would love to predict. Patients want me to predict the future, but I tell them I don't have a crystal ball. I can't. But maybe within 2 years to 10 years. Now, I used to say 10 years, you don't see changes in big technology. Now I changed that to say, because of all the AI stuff, it may be 2 years. Everything is drastically changed.
Yeah, it definitely is speeding up innovation. I mean, being able to understand, comprehend, and then spit out a result from all the different research and information that's out there, and being able to do it at that speed. I mean, just think about how you go about your day-to-day life. I mean, it makes everything more efficient.
I mean, I think it's, especially when you talk about like the future of where things are going with AI, it has to be in the conversation now.
I mean,
a major part of it.
Look at your iPhone. The new iPhones, I don't have it, but the new ones have AI built in, and
All these new software systems almost have to.
predictive text, right? Someone texts you, and then you get it, and it gives you a suggestion to write back. And rather than taking the time to sit there and write it back, you can just click a button and it sends it back.
I can't let myself do that yet.
It knows your personality, though.
I like the input, but I always take the text and I always have to modify it to make it mine. And so I always
You just don't know. You don't know what you sound like, I guess.
Well, maybe I'm going to be too quick to come back. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Click. Oh, and then they sends it right away.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool, but I look at it. I think I've done it maybe less than 5% of the time, where it comes up with that little
using the AI,
the little glow on the AI for the iPhone. But I use AI so much.
I haven't seen it,
but anything that's coming from me, I like it to still come from me actually, where I'm processing it and then.
So you don't think an AI version
back
of you, even though it knows how it can see all your texts and how you've responded and the way that
it would be pretty close.
The way that you answer things, you don't think the AI knows that?
It would seem like me, but it wouldn't be me. I don't think. But I could be AI right now. I think the whole thing is we're in this generation. We've made it this far. AI's in our lifetime. It wasn't in our great grandparents' lifetime. They didn't make it to that point, but we will. So we have this opportunity where we are already being uploaded. You know, the video stuff, anything that's out there, they're looking at likeness. They're looking at, if you want to make a Joe Rogan podcast, he has so much data that you can look at him and make a AI Joe Rogan. That's what it is. Yeah, so they want to get us uploaded.
All the fakes.
I don't know what the reason is, but potentially if your likeness gets uploaded, is there any kind of consciousness that could be, that they could derive actual artificial intelligent life. Maybe that's why they're doing all of this. Maybe that's why people like Joe Rogan are so powerful, because they have all this footage of them on video, audio, and they have a pretty good idea who that guy is. Maybe pretty close, but maybe they can probably quantify what those numbers are just based on his videos. So potentially the next phase of this is getting people uploaded. Or you don't make it to that phase and you don't want to, and you go back into the carbon resource within the ground for the next phase. Anyways, dude, it's been so awesome having you on here. Is there any Instagram handles that you want to give out to everybody, or any last closing remarks that you want to make? Because dude, I feel like I don't see you enough. I love Brenton. I love the guys. I love the people that work within the company that you work for. And now, I don't know, it seems to change different names and management and all these things, but the good people really, really continue to be awesome resources. And I'm happy to call you a friend. I hope we can continue to work together for a long time in many different ways, but hopefully any kind of way. So it's been great having you, man.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think it's great that we're able to talk and show people that there is a relationship that's not just a work relationship in this industry, and
relationship,
and
right?
how much that matters. And so I think this has been fun to do that, and just showcase the kind of that relationship that we have. And so thanks for having me. It was great hearing your opinions on all this stuff, and it's been fun.
Awesome, man. Cool. Well, I'll let you keep going. All right, thanks, man. All right. That's it, folks. That's all, folks.